morning, everyone, especially to our young parliamentarians. Welcome to the halls of Parliament. I would like to recognize in the chambers Magistrate Carolyn Vogt Evans, Acting Permanent Secretary Montez Williams, Director of Education Dominique Russell, Member of Parliament for Nassau Village Mr. Jamal Strawn, other members of the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, Director, Deputy Director, welcome. Young persons, welcome once again to the halls of Parliament. I hope that you will do your endeavor best with your deliberations as you discuss topics that affects young people here in the country. Those topics which relates to youth policy and food security. Please remember that the present parliamentarians here are watching you and looking for your innovative advice and advancement of how you think those two topics will affect our nation in the near future. So we want you to know as you deliberate and discuss these topics that you be fair, frank, and true to yourself. As we move this country forward, upward, onward, together, it is you who bridge the gaps of the generation that allow us to do so. So once again, thank you and welcome to the halls of Parliament.
I will now accept nominations for a person to be Speaker.
I nominate the member from Mount Moriah to be the Speaker of this youth parliament.
Is there a seconder?
I second.
It has been moved and seconded that the member of Mount Moriah be elected Speaker. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The member of Mount Moriah has been elected Speaker of this youth parliament.
Mr. Speaker! Daniel chapter 5 speaks about a conundrum faced by the king. The conundrum was so great until he had no one to present the solution to him. They looked high and low, and one name arose, and that was Daniel. Daniel was described as a young man who was skilled, but it was something that was mentioned that was very critical for us to pull on today, even in alignment with National Youth Month theme. The Bible described him as having an excellent spirit. Young people, parliamentarians, we are at an amazing juncture that you are now going to share with the country and the world solutions to what could possibly be one of the greatest turning points in our country. as you release the words that God has so etched on your heart, and those words release from your mouth, I challenge you to remember just one simple thing, that the work that God started on the inside of you has now come to its culmination. Always remember that if God puts you in a room, it's because you were crafted, ordained, prepared, and above all else, anointed for such a time as this. May fear and doubt be removed at this time, and may you remember the God who put you here. Bow with me in a word of prayer. O matchless and heavenly Father, we bow in reverence in this hallowed, sacred ground that we call Parliament, to give you the glory and honor that is due unto your name. Father, we ask that as we proceed, we ask that we are an example to the young people around this country, that no matter your background, your living condition, your financial disposition, that you have given them the victory and the capacity for success. Father, bless the halls of this Parliament. Bless the Ministry of Youth and its minister, and bless the coordinators and all in sundry. God, be ye glorified through this experience, and may your precious blood continue to give our young people boldness and passion and courage. We give you thanks and praise in all these things, for you are Lord, and besides you there is none other. In Jesus' name, and we say, Amen.
Our Father,
Who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who have trespassed against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Honorable members, I am not unmindful of the honor on which you have conferred on me today in electing me to this highest of office, that of your Speaker and your servant. It will be my aim and duty to uphold the principles and traditions of this House and secure for each member the right to express his or her opinions within the limits necessary to preserve the decorum of this House. I pledge to recognize the rights and privileges of the honorable members and the House itself. I will assure that I will preside in a manner which will facilitate the transaction of debate in an orderly manner. And above all, I will seek to be fair and impartial in the decisions, the rules of this Parliament, and you yourselves have entrusted me. I will now entertain a motion for the election of a Deputy Speaker. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for North Andros and the Berry Islands.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the member of Seabreeze be elected Deputy Speaker.
Is there a seconder?
I second.
It has been moved and seconded that the Honourable Member for Seabreeze be elected Deputy Speaker. As many as are in favour will remain seated, and those opposed will stand. The Honourable Member for Seabreeze has been elected Deputy Speaker of this Youth Parliament. Honourable members, before we proceed to the order of business for the day, we wish to recognize the absence of the Honourable Member for Angleston, who was unable to make it here today. So let's give him our support as he gets a speedy recovery. Resolutions. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Garden Hills.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Resolution on the Bahamas National Youth Policy, recognizing that the need for youth-identified target areas, youth-centered problem-solving, and youth-led recommendations are essential in addressing challenges of Bahamian youth to improve their quality of life, but also serves as an instrument in creating a more sustainable avenue for youth work and development within our country. Whereas the government of the Bahamas is concerned about the future of our nation's youth and are invested in creating avenues for youth to grow, sustain, and develop the characteristics and skills needed to thrive not only within our country, but also the opportunities to compete on a national and international scale. The implementation of a national youth policy will seek to pave a path to success for all Bahamian youth through addressing their unique needs, making them stakeholders in national decisions that are detrimental to their future, and conjure up a culture of respect and value for the youth voice and the role it plays in national succession planning. Whereas the National Youth Policy addresses 7 main objectives that were identified as critical issues affecting youth. These issues include identification, self-awareness, education, technology and capacity building, employment, social enterprise and youth professionals, and inclusion in decision-making process, and youth empowerment, just to name a few. And whereas the government of the Bahamas is steadfast about protecting their youth, as displayed in their decision to have signed on to another protective legislation, such as the Child Protection Act of 2007 and the Protection Against Violence Bill in 2023. Being a part of such cause demonstrates our government's willingness to make a better Bahamas for all its citizens, present and future. Be it resolved that the members assembled for this 24th session of the Bahamas Annual National Youth in Parliament will debate the challenges, concerns, and solutions for addressing the needs of youth in our country, and more specifically, the continuous need for implementing a national youth policy in the Bahamas. Honorable Speaker, distinguished members of the Bahamas National Youth in Parliament, thank you, Garden Hills, for giving me this opportunity to represent you and to address you, but also to address this pressing issue of education, technology, and capacity building as part of our formulated national youth policy. Today, I stand before you with a vision of a nation where every child has access to quality education, where cutting-edge technology fuels innovation, and where capacity building empowers individuals to reach their full potential. Education is the cornerstone of a prosperous society. It shapes the minds of our youth, equipping them with the knowledge and skills necessary to tackle the challenges of the future. However, we cannot turn a blind eye to the fact that the education system in the Bahamas faces significant challenges. According to recent reports taken by the Ministry of Education after the 2023 national examination results, the country's literacy and numeracy rates have been declining, hindering the intellectual growth and development of our young citizens. But fret not, for where there is a challenge, there is an opportunity for change and improvement. To address this issue, we must first acknowledge the transformative power of technology. Technology has the power to revolutionize education, making it more accessible, engaging, and effective. It can bridge the gap in learning, connect students to a world of knowledge, and prepare them for the jobs of tomorrow. To quote Nelson Mandela, "Education is the most powerful weapon we can use to change the world," end quote. With this in mind, I propose a 3-pronged approach to improving education, technology, and capacity building within the Bahamas. Firstly, we must increase the funding for education. Adequate financial resources are essential to provide quality education for all. The government should allocate a higher percentage of the national budget to education, ensuring that all schools have the necessary resources, including technology, infrastructure, and learning materials, to deliver a more and effective curriculum for the students. Furthermore, we must also ensure that our educators receive proper training and support to effectively integrate technology into their teaching practices. Continuous training programs, workshops, and even mentorship opportunities like the Bahamas Teachers Cadets are vital for educators and for future educators. to exchange their skills and to exchange their pedagogical skills and to help them keep updated with emerging technological advancements. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, more partnerships between the public and private sectors are crucial. The Bahamas is home to a vibrant tech company such as BTC, Alive, and Cable Bahamas, just to name a few, brimming with talented individuals and innovative setups. By continuously collaborating with these tech companies and educational institutions, we can harness their expertise to develop cutting-edge educational tools and platforms. Additionally, initiatives like mentorship programs and internships can provide students with real-world exposure to the tech industry, nurturing their passion and igniting their entrepreneurial spirit. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, we must prioritize capacity building. And Mr. Speaker, may I remind you, capacity building is defined by the United Nations as the process of deepening your skills and abilities to survive in the fast-changing world. And what better to build yourself, Mr. Speaker, or build yourself as a country than to promote entrepreneurship and innovation. Encouraging entrepreneurship and innovation among our youths can foster creativity, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills. Entrepreneurship programs, startup incubators, and innovation hubs should be encouraged or further encouraged to provide our youth with the resources and support they need to develop their ideas and turn them into viable businesses. This not only promotes economical growth, but also prepares students for the evolving job market. The Bahamas has a rich history of resilience and determination, Mr. Speaker. Today, let us challenge the spirit in transforming our educational system, embracing technology, and building the capacity for our people. Not only by doing this, we can unlock the full potential of the youth and secure a brighter future for the Bahamas. As we gather here in the Bahamas Youth in Parliament, let us remember the words of Mahatma Gandhi. Be the change that you wish to see in the world. The time for change is now. Let us join hands and work together to improve education, technology, and capacity building in the Bahamas. Together, we can build a nation where every child has the opportunity to succeed, where technology advances, thrives, and where the potential for every individual is realized. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, let us remember the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I quote, "The function of education is to teach one to think intensely and to think critically. Intelligence plus character equals the goal of true education. Let us strive for education, excellence in education, harness the power of technology, and build the capacity of our people. Together, we can shape a brighter future for the Bahamas, a future where education has no boundaries, where technology fuels innovation, and where every individual has the opportunity to succeed." Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield.
Thank you, Honorable Member, for your contribution. Is there a seconder? The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Pine Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the resolution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, fellow parliamentarian colleagues, I am deeply honored to address you today as the Member of Parliament of the vibrant and resilient constituency of Pine Ridge. In the heart of our constituency beats the spirit of a people who have faced many challenges with unwavering strength and unity. Mr. Speaker, the National Youth Policy serves as a dynamic compass guiding our nation's future through the aspirations and actions of our vibrant youth. In Pine Ridge, a constituency teeming with youthful energy, this policy takes on special significance. It reflects a steadfast commitment to nurture, empower, and uplift the young generation, ensuring their inclusion in shaping the political, social, economic, and cultural fabric of our community. The principles of inclusivity and diversity echo loudly here. envisioning a future where the contributions of Pine Ridge youth not only define our local identity, but also drive our collective progress. As we journey through this time, it is crucial to continually assess and adapt our national youth policy to meet the evolving needs of our youth. While the established key objectives serve as essential pillars of progress, they must maintain flexibility to navigate the dynamic landscape of our society. A robust vision for the national youth policy necessitates placing paramount importance on mental health and well-being. Given the myriad of stresses and challenges faced by our youth, addressing their needs gives a comprehensive and holistic approach. To comprehensively address youth mental health in the Bahamas, a multifaceted approach is proposed. Firstly, the establishment of a dedicated crisis helpline aims to provide immediate support and guidance during emotional distress or crisis. Additionally, the creation of youth-friendly mental health spaces within communities ensures accessibility to essential services in a comfortable and stigma-free environment. Equally important is parental and teacher training, fostering a supportive environment by enhancing their understanding, identification, and response to the mental health needs of youth. This integrated approach seeks to establish a robust and inclusive framework for addressing the diverse mental health challenges faced by youth in the Bahamas. Furthermore, a crucial aspect of our policy framework involves seamless integration with existing services. By aligning mental health initiatives with established structures, we maximize accessibility and impact. This integration ensures that mental health is not treated in isolation, but becomes an integral part of the overall health and well-being services available to our youth. Together, these measures reflect a commitment to creating a national youth policy that not only recognizes, but actively addresses the mental health needs of our young population. Mr. Speaker, I recently had the opportunity to participate in the UNFCCC Climate Change Week held in Saudi Arabia, and the experience underscored the imperative for our national youth policy to transcend symbolic gestures and actively engage in transformative climate action. Beyond the mere acknowledgement of environmental challenges, we advocate for a dynamic integration of climate considerations, empowering young leaders to craft and implement sustainable solutions. This approach positions the national youth policy not just as a document, but as a catalyst for collaborative partnerships, urging the youth to shape a future where environmental stewardship is ingrained in their way of life. To strengthen our national youth policies, dedication to climate action, and environmental responsibility, we advocate for the establishment of a Youth Climate Corps. This initiative harnesses the vigor of young individuals for ecosystem restoration, emphasizing mangrove reforestation and coastal rehabilitation to enhance coastal resilience. Modeled after India's Green Army, the Corps seeks to involve youth in hands-on projects, planting millions of trees for biodiversity, conservation, and heightened climate resilience. Concurrently, this policy proposes the creation of green technology incubators, empowering young entrepreneurs to innovate in renewable energy and energy-sufficient solutions. In conjunction, youth environmental monitoring teams equipped with technology will monitor and report local environmental changes, offering vital data for climate adaptation strategies. These unified initiatives within the national youth policy reflect a proactive stance aiming to empower and mobilize youth for transformative climate action, cultivating a sustainable and resilient future. The national youth policy serves as a catalyst for transformative change, embracing inclusivity and diversity in addressing climate challenges. Actively involving youth in climate-related fields taps into their passion and unique perspectives, fostering transformative change at the intersection of climate action and broader societal development. Beyond the document, the policy stands as a living testament to the collective power of diverse youth, voices propelling us toward a sustainable and equitable future. Mr. Speaker, in closing, our national youth policy is a commitment to empower and inspire a generation for a sustainable future. Let's carry the spirit of collaboration and innovation forward, focusing on actions, opportunities, and resilience. It represents a steadfast belief in every young mind, transcending barriers. Together, let's build a legacy where youth dreams shape a thriving nation in harmony with its people and the environment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Pine Ridge, for your contribution. It has been moved and seconded that the following resolution be agreed. Whereas the government of the Bahamas is concerned about the future of our nation's youth and are invested in creating avenues for youth to grow, sustain and develop the characteristics and skills needed to thrive not only within our country, but also have opportunities to compete on a national and international scale. The implementation of a national youth policy will seek to pave a path to success for all Bahamian youth through addressing their unique needs, making them stakeholders in national decisions that are detrimental to their future, and conjure up a culture of respect and value for the youth voice and the role it plays in national succession planning. Be it resolved that the members assembled for this 24th session of the Bahamas Annual National Youth in Parliament will debate the challenges, concerns, and solutions for addressing the needs of youth in our country, and more specifically, the continuous need for implementing a national youth policy in the Bahamas. As many? The chair recognizes the honorable member for Kalani.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, fellow you parliamentarians and esteemed guests, good morning. Today, I stand firmly and proudly before you, Mr. Speaker, as a representative of the constituency of Kalani. A world where young people no longer face the harsh realities of unemployment, limited access to quality education, and exclusion from decision-making processes, the youth policy. We have gathered here today to discuss and delve into the very essence of our nation's future, the National Youth Policy of the Bahamas. These are not just words on paper, mind you. They represent our commitment to fostering the development and empowerment of our youth. In the words of the first Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Sir Lyndon Pinckney, any policy consideration of the economic and social development of our nation must be extensionally geared to involve young people. His wisdom rooted in the understanding that the future of our nation depends on involvement and the empowerment of its youth. Today, we come together not just as a community, but as a family dedicated to nurturing the dreams and aspirations of the next generation. To commence, the first objective talks about identification and self-awareness. While I do agree with this policy, I also believe that efforts should not just be made to develop programs designed to promote tolerance and a better understanding between youth and adults, but also be made to promote a positive mental health for both youth and adult individuals. By integrating mental health support in the programs that promote tolerance, understanding, and intergenerational learning, the policy ensures that the emotional well-being of both young and adult individuals is prioritized. It acknowledges that mental health plays a crucial role in shaping self-identity and positive interactions within the community, contributing to the well-being and self-awareness of all age groups. Subsequently, while I am in full support of the objectives of promoting healthy, sustainable livelihoods and the environment, there are a few additional considerations that can enhance this objective. Firstly, sustainable livelihoods in the environment. While this objective talks about ways to support sustainable environment, it doesn't mention anything about the individuals living in these environments' opinions. How can we truly understand what the youths of the Bahamas need? How can we connect with them if we don't even truly understand the challenges they face? To truly grasp the challenges in these areas, policymakers must immerse themselves in affected constituencies. This involves physical visits and meaningful engagements with the people residing there, whose first-hand experience and insights are viable for creating effective resolutions. By visiting these areas, we gain a first-hand look at the conditions in which young people live and work. Moreover, engaging with the local community is essential for comprehending the culture, social, and economic dynamics that shape sustainable livelihoods and environments. These visits offer more than just essential insights. They also serve as a tangible demonstration of genuine commitment to understanding the concerns of these constituencies and improving their circumstances. This, in turn, builds trust and credibility among young people and local residents. Additionally, recognizing that each community has its unique set of challenges and strengths, policymakers can tailor their objectives to address needs of each constituency. Moreover, in the objective of health, it talks about increasing awareness in the fight against STIs and HIV and AIDS, to make certain that number of infections among our youth continues to decrease, and ensure that both abstinence and safe sex campaigns receive equal funding and support from youth stakeholders. However, it doesn't mention anything about youth having access to contraceptives. By providing youth access to contraception, we equip young individuals with the needs to make informed decisions about their reproductive and sexual activities. According to the Department of Public Health Service Youth and STI Clinic, there were 2,616 people in the Bahamas who tested positive for syphilis at least once between 2014 and 2018. The report indicated that during this period, cases increased by 63%, from 439 in 2014 to 714 in 2018. It also noted that there were 816 cases of chlamydia and 186 cases of gonorrhea infection in 2017. The empowerment of youths having access to contraception is twofold, as it safeguards them against unintended pregnancies while also decreasing the risk of contracting sexually transmitted infection. Ultimately contributing to the overall well-being of youth. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, this resolution is designed to benefit all individuals, regardless of their academic or vocational pursuits. It is a gateway to opportunities open to each and every one of you. Now, the onus is on you to grasp these opportunities and utilize them to the fullest and forge a path to a brighter and more promising future. Together, we can empower ourselves and contribute to the betterment of our community and our nation as a whole. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Kalani, for your contribution. As many? The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Nassau Village.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Investing in youth today ensures a thriving nation for tomorrow. Esteemed members of Parliament, distinguished guests, and my fellow youth advocates. As I stand before you today, I stand as the very proud representative for the best constituency of all constituencies, Nassau Village. As I come before you today, I come before you to address a matter of utmost importance: the future of our nation's youth. The Bahamas National Youth Policy is not just a document or some form of paper just lying around, but this document is a distinct roadmap used to empower and uplift the next generation and generations to come. Mr. Speaker, in addition to the youth policy being a roadmap, this was put in place to implement revolutionary policies that would open the door for young entrepreneurship, skill development, and empowerment. The goals of this very youth policy is to acknowledge the value of developing young minds, encouraging inclusivity, and advancing the mental health and well-being of the youth of our very own nation. As it relates to improving the Bahamas National Youth Policy, there are a few areas that could be considered, such as educational training and development. Mr. Speaker, without the necessary resources and infrastructure, it can be very, very challenging for the youth of our nation to turn their dreams into reality. During this summer, the prestigious Member of Parliament for the constituency of Nassau Village hosted a summer school student cohort. The young constituents within this cohort were exposed to not only the direct observation of the political forum, but the summer students within this cohort were also afforded complete access to materials and opportunities to interact with some of the most influential figures in politics today. I illustrated that point to express this again. Mr. Speaker, there is no way that we can expect our young people to turn their dreams into reality if we don't afford to them the resources and infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, we need to, we have to, we must ensure that the youth of our nation have access to the right training and support systems to help them move forward. There are far too many youth in our nation filled with potential, aspirations, and just waiting to be released. But because they don't have the right resources, because they don't have the right infrastructure, they are unable to move forward. And as I stand before you today, I say to everyone, and let's try to make that end right here and right now. Can you just imagine having all of these brilliant young minds with amazing ideas and aspirations, but not having the tools, funding, or support to bring these things to life? Mr. Speaker, that can be very tragic. And as a young person, I can tell you that it can make you feel as if you've came to a complete roadblock. That's why it is so very crucial to provide our young people with access to things like mentorship programs, funding opportunities, and more educational resources. Simply because by investing in their potential and creating a positive environment, we can help them overcome these challenges and turn those very same dreams into reality. Furthermore, we should strengthen the youth policies, education skills, and training, along with unemployment and job security. As I say this, I stand firmly, boldly, and confidently when I say that we should not only want to, but we have to strengthen the youth policy, education skills, and training. By ensuring access to quality vocational training and career development opportunities, we can equip young people with the knowledge and skills they need to succeed in today's very competitive world. As a government and as a united nation, we certainly must invest in the future of our young people by providing them with the tools and resources necessary to thrive in their chosen fields. Additionally, the Bahamas Youth Policy can play an important role in further enhancing the support for mental health and well-being among young people. This can be done by increasing access to mental health services, promoting mental health awareness and education, while also implementing preventative measures to address the unique challenges faced by our youth. We also can include these programs and initiatives that prioritize all of these things. We can implement counseling services and create a safe space for open discussion. We can ensure, Mr. Speaker, with this being done, that the young people of our nation not only get the help that they want, but they will be able to get the help that they so very need. Another thing we can focus on is developing more vocational training programs to equip these young people with in-demand skills. Some initiatives we can implement as it relates to the topic at hand is encouraging entrepreneurship by providing mentorship, funding, and resources for our young entrepreneurs. These initiatives can help address youth unemployment and foster job security for young people in the Bahamas. In conclusion, empowering young people with the right tools and support is not just a policy, Mr. Speaker, but it is a commitment to our young people in our nation that we will create what we call a new day in our society. Therefore, let us young people, let us continue to work toward a society where every single young Bahamian has access to quality education and meaningful employment, and a chance to thrive in their chosen career path. Let us continue to let our young people have a voice and are better able to express their concerns. Let this year's Youth Parliament of 2023 be a voice that is heard from our government. Mr. Speaker, the constituency of Nassau Village rests.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Nassau Village. As many, the chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Central and South Eleuthera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As Nelson Mandela once said, the youth of today are the leaders of tomorrow. To the Speaker of this Honorable House and honorable members, good morning. I rise this morning to represent the great people of Central and South Eleuthera to support the resolution. The National Youth Policy outlines the strategies needed to be implemented by public authorities with a view to providing young people with opportunities and experiences that support their successful integration into society and enable them to be active and responsible members of their societies, as well as agents of change. Firstly, allowing the youth of this nation to have a voice in the decision-making process can make space for new ideas and opportunities. Let us not underestimate the brilliance of our youth today in the Bahamas, and let us take advantage of opportunities to have them participate in forums where they can present these new ideas and opportunities. Youth participation dismantles, brings clarity, removes negative stereotypes of young people, and helps break down barriers between adults and young people. Involving young people in decision-making can improve attitudes that are based on an understanding or misconstrued understanding of today's young people, and also create a greater awareness of youth issues. To promote youth participation in public governance, public institutions need to transform the way they interact and engage with young people and empower them to fully unleash their potential. Mr. Speaker, I think it's about time we turn away from our old ways and instill in new ones. Youth-led solutions are in various areas, including health and well-being, climate action and biodiversity, and food security, which were showcased during the Youth Lead Innovation Festival and Solutions Campaign organized by the United Nations Office of the Secretary General's Envoy on Youth in 2021. Have shown that young people are at the front lines of developing new solutions and pillars of their communities. Youth participation is also vital for promoting inclusive policy process, increasing legitimacy and ownership of policy decisions, holding governments accountable to their decisions, and enhancing trust in the government. We should be engaging, enabling, and empowering our youth. Secondly, investing in the education is another way to better our youth policy. Education is a fundamental right of every individual, and it is the foundation of a prosperous and successful society. Education not only equips individuals with the knowledge and skills necessary to succeed in life, but also enables them to contribute to their communities in meaningful ways. To design effective youth engagement strategies, government should have a clear understanding of how young people engage with each other in order to cater to their needs. Many young people are considered digital natives by virtue of their age and early experience with technology. Technologies have become the #1 communication. Understanding youth behavior, they prefer to receive quick feedback in this regard, providing prompt responses when interactive with youth. In Eleuthera, there are several youth program opportunities such as local government junior council, youth in parliament, and town meetings involvement, just to name a few. There is a need for more mentorship programs and vocational and training institutes.
Empowering the next generation through education is vital to ensuring that they can tackle the challenges of tomorrow. I also think that an all-one-system approach to youth policy would support young people along the entire continuum of their journey from school to work. It would help them obtain both post-secondary education and quality work experience to support their transitions from education to good jobs. In this modernized approach, elementary and secondary schools, community colleges, four-year universities, employers, and governments would all follow an integrated playbook, helping to smooth out young people's path from secondary high school to college and work. To transform youth policy, systemic reforms should incorporate the following: improved ability, enhanced academic and career counseling. In addition, we must remember that we all go through things in life that may or may not bring out the best results. Therefore, we must teach our youth the importance of prioritizing their mental health and give them knowledge and understanding of how they identify different mental illnesses that can be a result of their life's crisis. These illnesses can include depression, anxiety, and bipolar disorder, just to name a few. According to a nurse in Eleuthera, numerous of anxiety pills are being prescribed to persons who may experience mental health issues. More assistance ought to be provided to those who experience these issues by making them more self-aware of their own feelings and behaviors. Perhaps in Eleuthera, there are sadly no facilities that can assist people with mental health problems, but persons still can receive medication from various clinics. Thus, mentorship programs and fostering a community where young persons can receive guidance and are able to speak about their problems and solve them in a more positive way. In conclusion, Malala Yousafzai stated that young people have the power to change the world. They just need the opportunity to do so. Therefore, be it resolved that special needs, interests, and goals of young people may not be adequately met by policy outcomes if their voices are muted. Developing inclusive methods that actively involve youth and highlight their opinions and state in decision-making as vital contributions to the democratic process are essential, as well as being aware of feelings and behaviors of the youth. Be it further resolved that young people need to become more and more educated and become involved in any youth development programs. Education is central to development and to the improvement of the lives of young people. We must bring forth the youth and motivate them to reach beyond the stars. Therefore, we must push, lead, encourage our youth to stand up, be empowered, and be excellent. I rest my case. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Central and South Eleuthera. As many, the chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Long Island.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am honored to represent the proud constituency of Long Island. The Bahamas, despite its small size and scattered islands, consists of an immense population of roughly 410,000 people. Within this population lies a demographic of youths that cover over half of the entire populace, with 58.4% to be exact being under the age of 35, according to the National Youth Policy of the Bahamas. This existing data shows that the population of the Bahamas, just as the country itself, is a relatively youthful nation, with the median age of the people being about 30 years old. Therefore, it is important to invest in the youth of today so that they can be great leaders and citizens of the future. It is crucial to develop opportunities for youth programs, beneficiaries, and a multitude of other positive gateways to develop the nation in a positive way. The National Youth Policy is a document consisting of resolutions focusing on the development of youth in the Bahamas. With 7 key policy objectives, the National Youth Policy is based around what the government deems necessary for a positive future. Identification of self-awareness, educational, technological, and capacity building, employment of youth professionals, health and environment, youth in conflict with the law, decision-making and youth empowerment, and the streamlining of national youth development goals. Now, these goals and policies are not only focused upon one island, but all 700 islands and keys within this archipelago, and the policy ensures a positive future led by the youth of the day. The National Youth Policy manages many issues the youth face today, such as a subpar education system, lack of involvement in crucial decision-making, and not being taken serious by elders, which leads to issues such as unemployment, inconsistency of sustainable and healthy lifestyles, disobedience and lack of understanding of the law, etc. The issues, while present, vary in severity between each island, with some in more dire need than others, especially in more rural and isolated islands and areas. Resolutions, naturally, will also vary depending on the situation. For example, issues within education will focus on the expansion of facilities, such as the island school located in Luther and the Institute for Marine Science on the Lee Stalking Islands within the Exuma Keys. To facilitate oceanic learning, which is an important aspect of Bahamian culture. Technological advancements will focus on the upholstering and implementation of the latest tools in schools and businesses, as we all know that technology is almost ever-changing and updates are made every day, and it can be easy to be left behind. So to develop a positive nation, it would mean to capitalize on these amenities that we already have in place, while at the same time improving such amenities and also developing more benefits. Aspects like education, employment rates, self-awareness, and technological literacy are all important aspects for youth so that they can become outstanding and high-achieving everyday citizens. Therefore, it is important to keep the country's focus on these aspects. Examples of some initiatives would be media programs which will enable long-distance connectivity of youth with the aim to develop their cultural and ethical maturation. Social programs to inform other youths of responsible networking and social practices, and island unification, which makes a connection between all islands, resolving cultural and social differences. But why the youth, you may ask? Well, the youth is more influenced by social and cultural economic changes, so a positive impact on these aspects will in turn have a positive impact on them. Therefore, a youth policy is necessary to compile and decipher methods to create these positive impacts and to keep a note on the progress and status of the youth at the time. The National Youth Policy, however, should also be a guide for the government to make sure that things such as education, for example, are being capitalized upon to keep the youth in the Bahamas. In addition to this, more programs can be implemented and existing ones can be updated to fit the current situation of the future to come. But let us not forget that while it is important to capitalize on benefactors, plans, and countrywide factors, implementation of the National Youth Policy would be of no use if there are no youth involvement. Participation by youth themselves is crucial, thereby forming youth organizations and youth councils to develop a plan. Youth programs and services provided by National Youth Policy is necessary. Youth councils may also evaluate the efficiency of said programs, recording the data and analyzing it for changes, which will in turn lead for an update of the National Youth Policy if need be. I want to leave you with this, Mr. Speaker. The youth within this nation faces many challenges and hardships. However, they still aim to stride and push through obstacles. Although there are many issues at hand, resolutions and solutions are and will continue to be developed and implemented to make sure that the disadvantages that we face today or in the future will become more and more nullified. As time progresses, both the youth of the country and the Bahamas will surely have a definitive and advantageous future as the Bahamas and the people are youth. I yield.
Thank you, Honorable Member, for your contribution. As many, the Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Central and South Abaco.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to represent and speak on behalf of the great, resilient, and majestic constituency of South and Central Abaco, my home, full of survivors. Mr. Speaker, we as youth have a unique understanding of what can drive or hinder, what can stimulate or stagnate. Our cries ring loud, desperate to be heard or noticed, but only to be neglected and forgotten. So I stand here as a representation and with every fiber of my being say, open your ears and listen to us when we say we know what we need. Children should be seen, not heard. Every Bahamian child has at one point in their life heard this cautionary phrase. Stay silent while we ruin the world and then put the pressure on you to fix the damage. Stay silent while we use all our resources until you are completely done, leaving you with nothing. Stay silent while we apply the pressure of a hydraulic press to constantly criticize yourself in the name of being better than the past. How much longer should we stay silent? Honorable members, youthful silence is the killer of a youthful nation. That's the objective truth. So the question remains, does this new youth policy aid young hearts, and is there room for suggestion? Speaker, audience, the answer for both questions is a resounding yes. The National Youth Policy of the Bahamas has a reliable and sound plan to encourage, build, and protect our young people. However, I'm getting ahead of myself. What is National Youth Policy, and what exactly does it pertain to? It is a coordinated framework formulated to guide the development and implementations of inventions that will build and empower the youth for national development and their active participation in local, national, and global affairs. Now, allow me to ask my fellow parliamentarians, when did our opinion get taken into account? Did they ever actually ask us for feedback? How is it possible for you to say that you're doing the best for you while refusing to listen and offer chances for our voices to be heard? The local junior government council program was a great start. However, we need more avenues for you voices to be heard across the Bahamas and the globe. Firstly, we must implement a policy for the community to first identify and rehabilitate teenage drug users on the Fami Islands. After Hurricane Dorian, many of the youth in Abaco took to marijuana, alcohol, and vaping to assuage the pain and trauma that sits heavily on their chest. There have been multiple incidents where some may have to carry a student home completely intoxicated or under the influence. To combat this, we must notice the signs and quickly take action before we lose more of our young people to drugs and substance abuse. Secondly, we must have a policy to create programs for teenage parents in order to prevent repeated mistakes for both males and females. Similar to PACE, the Fami Islands must have a program to aid young parents post-pregnancy to navigate life as a teenage parent. They can get in touch with other young parents and form a support group, which can bolster self-esteem and boost self-confidence. This group can also theoretically teach emotional support, financial literacy, and character building, all fundamental in child rearing. We need more initiatives to aid young parents so that their offspring don't become a negative statistic to society. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, I would like to introduce a policy that will require the government to send experienced grief counselors on the ground in case of other natural disasters or large-scale community troubles. Hurricane Dorian truly did a number on my island, Abaco. It is of utmost importance to hone in on mental health, specifically grief and trauma. I remember, after the fact, I had horrible nightmares for a month straight. The smallest powder of rain had me nauseous and unable to stand. Yet I, as a 12-year-old boy, had to shoulder the burden by myself. Realistically, Abaco should have been swarming with mental health professionals after that disaster. However, we were left to get by on our own 2 feet. The trauma lingers to this day, haunting every young soul who was there to witness it. If this proposed policy was in place and grief counselors and trauma therapists were available right after the hurricane, the trauma would be less poignant to this day. So let it be known that we know what we need. Are you listening now? These policies are bound to benefit the people of the Bahamas. So, to the older generation, I say, listen more than you speak. And to my fellow youth, please remember that staying silent is no longer an option. Let us see the policies and initiatives provided for us in the National Youth Policy to make our voices heard through the Bahamas and the barriers of silence. Speaker, I yield.
Thank you, Honorable Member, for your contribution. Before we proceed, let us recognize the presence of the Honorable Fred Mitchell, Member of Parliament for Foxhill and Minister of Foreign Affairs. As many. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Golden Gate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If the development of our country were hypothetically a boat on rough seas with waves crashing against it every so often, would it be the captain of the ship that saves the boat? Would it be the mechanism of the boat that saves the boat? Or would it be the crew? Think about this. What truly hinders a country's development is the disenfranchisement of its youth. Mr. Speaker, fellow parliamentarians, distinguished guests, good morning. I rise to represent the great constituency of Golden Gates. A few of the country's most important youth requirements currently are education, employment and economic opportunities, and adequate health care. It's essential that these components are made accessible for all youth in the Bahamas. Firstly, education is vital for the development of the youth. For years, the youth of the Bahamas have been inadequately equipped by the education system here in the Bahamas. Mr. Speaker, according to the Ministry of Education, the Bahamas national grade point average from 2013 to now remains a D+. This tells us that the effort placed forth to ensuring that the youth in the Bahamas is fully competent in core and vocational subjects is inadequate at best. Without adequately educated youth, our country is doomed to fail. Limited economic growth, political disengagement, reduced global collaboration, and income inequality are only a few of the catastrophes that a poor education system bestows our country with. It's essential, if the Bahamas is looking for the development we strive for, it's essential that we ensure that education is placed at the forefront of our country. This can be done through establishing a comprehensive national youth policy. With this policy, we can provide adequate public knowledge of scholarships offered for high schools and tertiary level institutions, particularly equal access to family islanders, not only through the Ministry of Education, but also through international bodies and technical assistance division of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Furthermore, we can set mandatory implementations and strengthening of Bahamian civic studies in all schools to ensure that the youth in the Bahamas understand their culture, their history, and their government, with the aim to facilitate diversity in their learning. Secondly, employment and economic opportunities are essential to ensure positive prospects for the youth in the Bahamas. In November 2011, the Department for Statistics Labor Force announced that the youth unemployment rate is at a staggering 34%. Mr. Speaker, because the youth make up nearly 2/3 of our population, this is just unacceptable. If youth are to become the guardians of our society and the trustees of wealth for future generations, it's essential that the Bahamas dedicates itself to investing in its youth. Without youth employment, we face the risk of economic consequences, such as a slower economic growth. We are also subjected to social impacts, such as poverty and inequality. And let's not forget about the demographic challenges, such as an aging workforce. If the Bahamas strives to press onward and march together to that common loftier goal that Timothy Gibson sang about in our nation's national anthem, it's imperative that we implement a comprehensive national youth policy so that we can ensure that our youth is marching alongside us. With this policy, we can establish programs that will identify, monitor, and facilitate the return of Bahamian college graduates and young professionals living overseas through the creation of opportunities, incentives, job placement, and housing assistance. With the implementation of the National Youth Policy, we're setting our youth up to succeed. Thirdly, adequate health care is crucial to ensuring the well-being of the youth in the Bahamas. According to a 2014 article written in The Guardian, people ages 14 to 24 make up 75% of new cases of sexually transmitted infections. Mr. Speaker, no country, I repeat, no country can thrive if its people are sick. The COVID-19 pandemic painted a clear, although grim, picture of what can happen to a country in the absence of proper health care. Countries like the Bahamas, Haiti, and Jamaica were dragged to their knees mercilessly by the COVID-19 pandemic, which showcased the world's inadequate health care in most Caribbean countries. For the past 3 years, the focus of every country in the world has been how do we save our people? Health is wealth. The true wealth of a country is indeed the health of its people. Mental health is a struggle that billions of people around the world face. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, in America alone in 2020, there were estimated 52.9 million youth individuals who were diagnosed with mental health illnesses. It is vital that we implement a comprehensive national youth policy so that we can ensure that our youth is given adequate health care services that they need. With this policy, we can strengthen health sex education within the school curriculums. Furthermore, we can revisit the age of consent for reproductive health services, inclusive of HIV and AIDS testing, counseling to increase youth access to services. As I close, going back to the allusion I used in my opening paragraph, who would save the boat? The captain represents its leaders. Their decisions direct the boat. The boat mechanism represents its finances. The more money a country has, the more chances it has to improve all sectors of social life. And the crew of the boat represents its youth. They must be well mentally, socially, physically, and educationally, because a country's youth resource is priceless. So the answer is all three of them save the boat. The captain, the mechanism of the ship, and the crew must work together in harmony to save the boat. A national youth policy is like a life vest to keep our country afloat. So we urge that our government put one on. Mr. Speaker, I yield my time to the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Golden Gates, for your contribution. As many? The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Fort Charlotte.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, viewers. Good morning. I rise in this honorable house today on behalf of the illustrious and resilient constituency of Fort Charlotte, who I'm honored to represent. Today's focus is trying to define the ambiguous document we know today as the Bahamas National Youth Policy. Our nation's progress depends on engagement, preparedness, and empowerment of our youth. The policy we discuss today isn't merely a checklist of objectives. It's a commitment to addressing tangible challenges faced by our young Bahamians daily. Our youth are not just passive beneficiaries of tomorrow, they actively shape our present. Challenges they face, whether in education, employment, or identity, reverberate through our communities, impacting families across our islands. Mr. Speaker, this policy identifies core areas, 7 to be exact, that range from self-awareness to inclusion in decision-making. These aren't just abstract concepts. They are real concerns shared by our youth in town hall meetings, schools, and community gatherings. Our government's previous decision to adopt the Child Protection Act and the Protection Against Violence bills are not symbolic gestures. They are set precedents, a precedent that tells Bahamians that the well-being of our youth we take seriously. As we debate the intricacies of this policy, let us remember its purpose, to provide actionable solutions for our youth's genuine concerns. Our aim is not to craft a lofty document, but to lay down a practical, actionable roadmap for the betterment of young Bahamians across the land. Mr. Speaker, first and foremost, a comprehensive youth policy should prioritize education. Access to quality education is the foundation upon young individuals can build their futures. It's essential to ensure that education is both accessible and relevant. Demands of the modern world, including digital literacy and skills needed for emerging industries. Furthermore, youth policy should focus on creating opportunities for employment and entrepreneurship, encouraging job creation, and supporting young entrepreneurs foster economic growth and innovation. This can be achieved through initiatives such as mentorship programs, startup incubators, and vocational training. Mental health and well-being should be essential to any youth policy. The pressures and challenges faced by youth today have a significant impact on their mental health. It's crucial to provide access to mental health services, reduce stigmas, and promote well-being through initiatives that support stress management and emotional resilience. Mr. Speaker, another key aspect is civic engagement and participation. Encouraging young people to participate in democratic processes, volunteering in their community, and being informed about social and political issues is essential for the growth of a responsible and engaged citizenry. Mr. Speaker, Equity and inclusion should underpin any youth policy. It is vital to address disparities based on gender, ethnicities, and socioeconomic status, ensuring that every young person has a fair chance to succeed. Lastly, but not least, environmental sustainability is an issue close to the hearts of many young Bahamians. A youth policy should reflect their concerns about climate change and the environment, promoting initiatives that encourage sustainability and reduce consumption. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, a smart and effective youth policy should be comprehensive, forward-moving, data-driven, inclusive, and most importantly, it should prioritize the well-being and opportunities of our young citizens. This is not just about policy. It is about investing in our future and fostering the growth and success of the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. As many, the Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Carmichael.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, I take courage in rising on behalf of the illustrious continent of the Carmichael constituency as we debate the resolution of the National Youth Policy in the Bahamas. In the great words of Khalil Satari, the power of the youth is the commonwealth for the entire world. The faces of the young people are the faces of our past, our present, and our future. No segment in the society can match the power that holds with idealism, enthusiasm, and courage of the young people. The youth are the backbone of our society. They are the future leaders, entrepreneurs, and employees who will drive economic growth and development. The National Youth provides a common and mutual understanding of the importance of youth and development among stakeholders and individuals in the Bahamas, and to set guidelines to the delivery of services of programs related to their development through a cross-sectoral and integrated approach. The framework of this policy is constructed within the 7 variables, paramount elements. However, Mr. Speaker, I beg to leave for our attention just the 2 facts for my contextualization of my contribution: financial inclusion in the educational system, and along with youth and immigration. A portion of this policy as drafted speaks about self-awareness and identification. But let's speak about youth and immigration. According to Objective 3.1 of the National Youth Policy, it stated in an article submitted by the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada, it states that the British Broadcasting Corporation reported that over 80,000 Haitian immigrants have migrated to the Bahamas, out of a population of 350,000 of the Bahamas population. Although there are many large groups of immigrants in the Bahamas, this specific population remains the biggest one. There are many stateless youths in the Bahamas who constantly feel left out during certain activities because they don't have the right IDs or qualifications to apply and be a part of this activity. A stateless youth, someone who is born from a parent from a different culture that are born in different countries, simply because the fact that their mother or father are from different cultures. Let me commend the government for allowing the youth population to apply at the age of 18 for Bahamian citizenship, despite the long waiting process. Yes, there is a long waiting process, for I too have went through that process, me and my family. My mother has waited 17 years after she got her documents, despite the fact being born in the Bahamas. Mr. Speaker, these youths feel as if though that they are not important to the Bahamas, whether they excelled in school, sports, entrepreneurship, and many other things. These youths are also bullied in school. These youths are also targeted by the police officers and many more. Here's my solution to the government so that they can also assist these students. They should create digital systems so that these students can have so that these students can have the process to be able to read, so that these students can have the process.
Take your time.
So that these students can have the process whether it's getting hired for a job, trying to get a scholarship, or apply for college. They create a system that helps them that calls the Stateless Youth Program, where they specialize in youths that are born from different cultures to assist them with documentations, jobs, scholarships, and many more. My second point is education and technology. The youth in the Bahamas have been and continue to be impacted by obstacles in the educational system. Let me commend the government for implementing the Renaissance Test and the Accelerated Summer School Program, and also the Learning Loss Program. However, there's still more to be added. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to share some statistics with you. In a press release from the Ministry of Educational and Technical and Vocational Training, Eyewitness News this year, we received poor grades from the BGCSE results, where we have over 5,000 BGCSE students that took the exam, and we only had 10.9% who received a C or higher BGC in 5 or more BGCSE subjects. In order to aid these students, let us find out ways that they can learn, what type of learner that each student are, whether it's a kinesthetic learner, visual learner, auditory learner, and read or write learner. After finding out what type of learners these students are, we can create strategies and use techniques to also aid these students, whether they are a visual learner, so we can teach them visually, an auditory learner, so that they can...
Honorable Member for Carmichael, the time has expired. The chair is going to extend you an extra 30 seconds to conclude your speech.
Okay. So that they can be able to learn. As I conclude today, I want you to remember the simple quote, Mr. Speaker. The foundation of every state is the education of its youth, by Diogenes. Let us take steps to ensure that our youth education is key, and so that our youth can be legalized like little Reggie in this country. When we take these course of action, we will see change inside our youth grades, and we will have more and better results in the examination, as though I know the Ministry of Education will love this. We will also have a youth that can finally go off to school and be employed. People of the Bahamas, let us move onward, forward, and together. Mr. Speaker, I yield.
Thank you, Honorable Member, for your contribution. Honorable members, before we proceed, let's just be mindful of the time limit. As many? The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for South Beach.
Thriving constituency of South Beach. Mr. Speaker, our youth is in distress, constantly being put on the wrong pathway. Many end up falling to the misfortunate events such as murdering each other, gang violence, and committing absurd crimes, which is not allowing the youth of our country to flourish. We need to enforce justice and support in the creation of community groups to help steer the youth into the right path. The youth is our future, and we need to preserve and protect them. It's unfortunate to hear every day that one and another youth is killing each other, lowering our count. They need to stop allowing themselves to fall down into the devil's hands and going down the incorrect pathway, which is not helping them. It's never too late to give up on our youth. I believe that the Bahamas needs to create more innovative programs to aid our youth when they are younger so that they can act in accordance and begin to strive into the right path from a young age. These programs can consist of having anti-drug conversations, stressing the importance of not harming your body and how to deal with conflict resolutions, preparing the youth for job readiness and proper work etiquette, how to earn and maintain a clean record and restraining themselves from committing crimes, maintaining the resistance and temptations from the peer pressure that the devil is persistent with, to have professional help readily available for our youth that have mental challenges such as depression, ADHD, and so on. Big Brother programs, and lastly, striving to make South Beach constituency as homely area as where we are our brother's keeper, because it takes a village to raise a child. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank
you, Honorable Member. As many? The chair recognizes the honorable member for West Grand Bahama and Bimini.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I stand on behalf of the reserved yet friendly people of the great West Grand Bahama and Bimini constituency. I deem it both an honor and a privilege to be here today. Mr. Speaker, as the West Grand Bahama and Bimini constituency continues to mourn, I beg leave to pause for a moment of silence for the late minister, the Honorable Obadiah Wilchingham. Mr. Speaker, if the children are our future, then there is no better way to invest in our future than to invest in our children. A quote by Dr. Nevada Singh. Today, the repetition continues of how important this document is to the substantial development and overall consideration of the youth of this nation, because it provides the foundation of what needs to be done as early as tomorrow. For the implementation for this national youth policy, this policy offers something for each youth and youth leader to grasp and take hold of at least one of the 7 key elements that this policy provides. It's time that the youth of this nation not only realize that they are our future, but also the current benefactors of what this youth policy has to offer. So the constituents of West Grand Bahama and Bimini and I are in firm agreement with the resolution. Although our country is relatively small in size, we are an archipelago that consists of 700 islands and keys, with 19 islands currently being inhabited. Our population is an estimated 400,000, with young people under the age of 29 accounting for 51%. What I appreciate about this policy is that it is not a one for all or all for one, but that it realizes that not every island's youth needs the same thing. This policy recognizes that each island has their own unique set of challenges and hurdles. The National Youth Policy, and I quote, state that these individual island profiles are unfettered, unedited, and uninfluenced as perceived by the young people in these various islands. It would be remiss of me to not echo the findings for Grand Bahama. Abusive law enforcement, alcohol abuse, church is no longer a sanctuary, corrupt law enforcement, deteriorated healthcare facilities, domestic abuse, drug abuse, failing education system, gang violence, high crime rate, high rate of STDs, ill-informed citizens, incest and molestation, insufficient jobs, insufficient teachers, lack of proper prison facilities, lack of a proper recreation facility, lack of a research center. These findings not only just allow the government to give the assistance needed, but it also provides for the organizations and youth leaders who come in contact with our youth on a daily basis. Mr. Speaker, I also believe that the legal working age in the Bahamas should be reviewed because of the evolving societal needs of the current generation. And by doing this, it will provide opportunities for the younger generation without forcing them to compromise on their well-being. Currently, the law states that the legal working age in the Bahamas is 18 years old. However, the current exemptions of this age limit, as it stands, allows one to receive a driver's license at age 17, consent to intimate relations, in addition to the ability to discontinue enrollment in high school at the age of 16. Mr. Speaker, if I can be entrusted to make such life-impacting decisions and engage in such potentially harmful proclivities under the age of 18, why are we unable to make a decision towards substantial employment, which can positively jumpstart our career? It opens for a gap for young people to stray away from their desired career paths, while encouraging them to settle or become comfortable in an average-paying job just to make ends meet. Being denied an opportunity to begin one's advancement in a particular field may discourage the youth after hearing, "You are simply too young. You don't know anything, that you must stay in your lane." While acknowledging the existence of various internship programs initiated by the government of the Bahamas for its youth, one must critically assess whether these endeavors sufficiently cater to the substantial annual influx of graduates and discontinued enrollments. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, permit me to highlight the fact that this policy, as drafted, looks toward the overall protection, investment, and advancement for the youth of our nation. As this year marks our 50th independence, I am hopeful that it is not just a milestone, but rather hopeful that it is not just a milestone, my apologies, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member for West Grand Bahama and Bimini. As many? Lord, I forget who I recognize. Oh. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for St. Barnabas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, distinguished members of the House, the harmonized constituency of St. Barnabas, ladies and gentlemen, I bid you all a good morning. It is with great pleasure that I stand before you today, representing not the, but the great constituency of St. Barnabas, to discuss a topic of the utmost importance, the National Youth Policy. Our youth are the bedrock of our nation's future, and it is our responsibility to ensure that they're equipped with the tools and opportunities they need to thrive. The National Youth Policy is an instrumental foundation that outlines our government's commitment to the youth of our nation. It is not just a document. It is a blueprint for the empowerment, development, and success of our young people. Therefore, it is our duty to take into consideration the unique challenges that our young people face today. We must emphasize the need for a robust educational system that equips them with the knowledge and skills necessary to succeed in the current modern world, acknowledging that times have changed between the 9-year gap in which the policy was introduced. Therefore, it is vital that I discuss the need for the update of self-identification and the addition of mental health and substance abuse amongst the youth of our nation. Firstly, updating self-identification within the National Youth Policy is a critical need, supported by compelling observations. The self-identification of young people has significantly changed, especially when it relates to cultural backgrounds. A large portion of young people today allow likes on posts to dictate their value. They allow society to tell them how it is they must feel, how to react, what they must wear, and even down to the food they must eat. This is far from being an empowered condition. We cannot allow people in other countries to use social media, or even persons right here at home with no clear knowledge of such matters, to educate our country's youth more than we do. We can cultivate more interactive programs and clubs focusing on youth development and mounting a firm foundation of self-confidence and versatility. By putting in place the update, the policy can be more closely aligned with the needs and aspirations of our young people. I too agree with the member for Killarney. Integrating mental health considerations into the National Youth Policy is not just a commendable step. It's a vital and necessary one. In our nation, there is a growing concern over the mental well-being of our youth with high rates of anxiety, depression, and other mental health challenges. These are even leading to sometimes more detrimental effects, such as suicide. To address this pressing issue, it is essential that we amend our policy framework to encompass mental health provisions. By doing so, we can ensure that our youth have access to the support, services, and resources needed to address their mental health needs. This step not only acknowledges a critical aspect of our youth's overall well-being, but also underscores our commitment to nurturing emotionally resilient and thriving young individuals. It's an investment in the future of the Bahamas that will contribute to a healthier, more productive, and happier generation. It is crucial, in my opinion, that the National Youth Policy be amended to address drug usage among our youth. My personal research has led me to discover a pattern that many alcohol abusers follow. Many of these individuals begin utilizing drugs in their early years, either through smuggling them at home or receiving encouragement to do so from friends or relatives. As time progresses, this increases the desire for the substance and leads to dependence. Comprehensive initiatives to prevent drug usage, educate people about its danger, and give treatment and support to those who are already affected need to all be incorporated into our policy framework. By doing this, we can lessen the long-term social and financial consequences of drug misuse and foster an atmosphere that is more protective for our young people, assisting them in making wise decisions. This initiative aims to invest in our youth's future health and potential by ensuring they grow up in safe, drug-free environments that will enable them to flourish and positively impact our community. In summary, the National Youth Policy embodies our country's dedication to its most precious resource, our youth. By investing in their education, health, and overall well-being, we are investing in the future prosperity of the Bahamas. Let us secure a brighter future tomorrow for our youth. Mr. Speaker, I yield.
Thank you, Honorable Member, for your contribution. As many. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for St. Anne's.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable members of the Bahamas National Youth in Parliament, I rise on behalf of the humble, dedicated, and proud Bahamians of St. Anne's to address this critical issue of the need for a national youth policy in the Bahamas. This policy is not just a mere suggestion, but a moral imperative as we take steps to nurturing the potential of our youth, who are both the future and the present of our great nation. Our country is at a crossroads where we must recognize that investing in our youth is not merely a choice, but a moral duty and not a can that can be further kicked down the road. The resolution of the Bahamas National Youth Policy highlights the importance for youth-identified target areas, youth-centered problem solving, and youth-led recommendations. All of these aspects, while it's not an exhaustive list, are vital in addressing the challenges faced by Bahamian youth and ensuring a brighter future for us all. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge and thank the government of the Bahamas for their deep concern for our youth. With rising unemployment, instances of domestic and gang violence, dozens of missing children just this year alone, and further declining in educational attainment amongst males, it is essential, if not existential, that we create avenues for us to grow, sustain, and develop the skills necessary for success, not only within our country, but on the global scale. This National Youth Policy is designed to pave a path for success for all Bahamian youth. It aims to address our unique needs, making us stakeholders in decisions that significantly impact our future. This in turn promotes a culture of respect and value for the youth voice, recognizing our crucial role in national succession planning and offering access to mentorship and guidance. From my perspective, we need to emphasize an importance on financial literacy and inclusion. It is reported by the governor of Central Bank, John Roll, in a 2019 interview that there are some Bahamians without even $1,000 in their savings account. He further noted that a 2017 study showed that 90% of Bahamians do not even have $5,000 altogether in a deposit account. That means there's no savings for a rainy day, no emergency medical funds if you, your children, or your parents were to get sick. Let that sit in, colleagues. It is no secret and very plain to see to the eye that in our beautiful family of islands, that traditional brick and mortar financial institutions have either ceased or limited operations altogether, seemingly leaving the vast amount of those individuals without convenient access to banking and financial products. However, with the introduction of digital wallets, electronic payment solutions, and most notably, the world's first digital currency, the Bahamas Sand Dollar, not all hope is lost. But more work has to be done for safe, secure, and fast accessible means of payments and commerce. Under these two aspects, it is critical for the Bahamas, and I suggest these three things. Financial literacy education. We must introduce a comprehensive financial literacy education into our schools. This should include lessons on budgeting, saving, investing, and understanding the financial system. By equipping our youth with financial knowledge, we empower them to make informed decisions about their finances, ultimately leading to a more prosperous and financially responsible generation. A simple lesson I use often on my 5 best friends. Tithes and charity, because we cannot forget God and our fellow man in all that we do. 20% for savings, 40% for living expenses and bills such as rent, groceries, and I don't know about y'all, but I cannot live without Netflix. 15% of investing, and another 15% for luxury and entertainment. A youth-centered financial programs. The creation of a youth-centered financial program will encourage saving and investing. Partnerships between financial institutions can provide youths with savings accounts at favorable interest rates. These programs should also include workshops and seminars on managing finances and investment opportunities specifically tailored to young Bahamians. Internship and mentorship opportunities. To foster inclusion in decision-making processes and to empower our youth, the government should encourage businesses to offer internships and mentorship programs. By engaging with experienced professionals, our youth can gain valuable insights and hands-on experiences in various industries. These programs can bridge the gap between classroom learning and real-life application, enabling them to make a more informed career decision. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker and my colleagues, as we move forward, united and focused on youth, the implementation of a national youth policy is not just an option. It is a moral and strategic imperative as Bahamians that we must stand united and recognizing the potential of our youth and supporting them in the implementation of this policy with a strong focus on financial literacy and inclusion, because as the Bible says, money answereth all things. Let us create a Bahamas where our youth are financially empowered, actively engaged, and well prepared to lead our nation into a prosperous future. The time to act was yesterday, but that time is gone. We must act now and together so we can build a stronger and more prosperous Bahamas for all generations to come. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member, for your contribution. As many? The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for East Grand Bahama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The youth of a nation are the trustees of posterity. Benjamin Disraeli. Where have we gone wrong? Almost every day, another youth is lost to challenges such as violence, mental health problems, inadequacies, low self-esteem, and so much more. Too many of our youth have lost all hope. And this should not be. As a nation, it is our job to ensure that our youth does not succumb to what I would refer as to the dark side of these challenges. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good morning. I am Kristen Thompson, representing my constituency, East Grand Bahama. According to a Nassau Guardian article dated August 31st, 2023, 5,393 students from 100 centers, both public and private, registered to set the Bahamas General Certificate of Secondary Education exams in 2023. From this number, 544 students, or just 10%, received a grade C or higher, or in 5 subjects or more. How did this happen? If this isn't already a wake-up call, I don't know what is. I am worried about what the future of the Bahamas would look like. What can we do to fix this? Mr. Speaker, we are living in a world where information and technology are growing exponentially. It is the time for our youth to submerge in the information and technology they already have access to. The traditional ways of learning are not just working for our children. It is antiquated, and young people are not given the opportunity to access information and technology based on their individual interests. Teachers are the most valuable players in this process. I have interviewed several teachers, and their responses were basically the same. According to the ones I interviewed, teachers are neglected and lack the resources they need to do their work. For example, teachers are expected to use a computer daily for their work, but are not provided with a laptop. They are forced to use their personal devices, which they are not given any financial assistance to maintain. Mr. Speaker, teachers are pressured to complete a curriculum, always considering the next test or exam, therefore teaching to the test, and they are blamed for the examination results. But the question is, Mr. Speaker, as a country, are we really putting enough effort into the way education is delivered? I don't think so. In our educational system, students undergo a lot of testing and are expected to pass with flying colors. Yet, we fail to understand that not every youth learns at the same pace. As a close friend once told me, not every youth is academically capable, and that's okay. Every youth should be able to learn at his or her own pace. So why should we place all youth on the same standard? Success is success, no matter how it is packaged. Mr. Speaker, more must be done to conclude all of our students. Our teachers need special training and retraining to be able to not only to recognize and identify students with learning disabilities, but also to assist our students with learning deficits by meeting each student where they are. In a Bahama Journal article dated September 1st, 2023, the Minister of Education, the Honorable Glenys Hannah Martin, stated, "Greater emphasis will be placed on a special education this academic school year." Mr. Speaker, this is great news. However, with some 162 government-run schools, the 22 special education teachers, and the 14 in the pipeline will need to meet the demand for our students with learning deficits. Our first resource is human resources, and then training. Our classrooms need to be outfitted with smart boards to provide students with an enriched learning experience by projecting visual elements. This resource would make differentiated learning easier because teachers could accommodate different learning styles and inclusion of all students. Mr. Speaker, addressing mental health for our youth is critical. Our youth are challenged in ways no other generation has been challenged. Physical, sexual,
and emotional traumas, depression, substance abuse are just a few of the challenges our young people have to battle on a daily basis. The youth of the Bahamas need healthcare facilities where they can obtain professional help and emotional support to help them overcome these challenges so that they can live meaningful and purpose-filled lives. Mr. Speaker, according to the Institute of International Education, there were 2,387 Bahamian students studying in the United States during 2021 to 2022 academic year. Most of these students are receiving their degrees would find themselves at a crossroad, asking oneself if it makes sense to return home, where many of them cannot find work, or stay in the United States, where they know job opportunities are not only available, but would be able to earn $20,000 to $30,000 more when compared to the small pay here at home. Mr. Speaker, youth need to be able to support themselves and their families. While the youth of the Bahamas love their homeland, many find it almost impossible to survive. The youth of the Bahamas desire and demand more.
Yes.
Working just to pay bills is not rewarding, and it is definitely not satisfying. We need more youth development centers and programs with a variety of learning opportunities, not merely focusing on academics, but equally including life, technical, technological, and vocational skills to supplement the traditional 9-to-3 schooling. This will level the playing field for all and drastically reduce the idleness for our young people, especially with those little to no hope. In closing, Mr. Speaker, if we as a nation can focus on the development of youth by transforming the way we deliver education, this country will grow leap by bounds because our young people will have the tools to do so. I am inspired and look forward to becoming a future teacher. I believe that I can make a positive impact in my country.
Yes.
And this impact can start with all youths if given the right tools and opportunities. I will leave you with these words penned by Kailash Satyarthi. The power of youth is the commonwealth of the entire world. The faces of young people are the faces of our past, present, and our future. No segment in society can match with the power, enthusiasm, idealism, and courage of the young people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member for East Grand Bahama, for that powerful contribution. As many, the chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Mangrove Key and South Andros.
I stand here as the representative for the proud constituency of Mangrove Key and South Andros. It has repeatedly been said that the youth are the future of our nation. Scholars, theologians, writers, and public figures, including Mary Vaughan, Ebner Epstein-Bach, and Franklin D. Roosevelt, alike have also coined noteworthy phrases, such as, in youth we learn, in age we understand, or we cannot always build a future for our youths, but we can always build our youths for the future. So then, how can we, the youth of today, ensure that the way is paved for generations of young people who will continuously advance forward after us carrying the mantle of progression. To begin, my fellow parliamentarians, the increase in declining mental health challenges among young people within the Bahamas is plaguing society at rapid rates. The youth of today are concerned with various pressures, from passing exams to getting jobs, as well as violence within the country. Mr. Speaker, according to the Bahamas Youth Health Survey, 85% of youths are affected by concerns regarding the examination process. Additionally, 70% of students had reported to the pressures associated with securing jobs after high school, and 63% accounted for violence in the community, inclusive of school-based violence. Furthermore, the youth of the nation continue to struggle with peer pressure. Peer pressure is the influence of another party to engage in acts that may be detrimental to another youth. Peer pressure usually stems from negative influences and thus generates adverse factors. The list is endless and must be addressed. Mr. Speaker, another alarming element affecting the youth of the nation is the lack of financial literacy awareness opportunities within the Bahamas. Many of today's young people are not allowed to create or access bank accounts or other services until an allotted age. Be that as it may, young people can be taught how to build and generate wealth, as well to be informed about investments, stocks, and bonds prior to departing from high school. Furthermore, abuse has increased at an alarming rate in the Bahamas within the 21st century. This abuse is inclusive of physical, verbal, emotional, and sexual abuse cases in the country nationally. As avowed by the National Youth Survey, overall, 36% of Bahamian students had been verbally and emotionally abused, 22% physically abused, and 13% sexually abused. Mr. Speaker, let me repeat that again. 36% of Bahamian students had been verbally and emotionally abused, 22% physically abused, and 13% sexually abused. However, this is not a true depiction, as many abuse occurrences usually go unreported. To add, Mr. Speaker, bullying is on the rise in the Bahamas. Many young people are not taught conflict resolution skills to assist them in avoiding unnecessary predicaments with other young people. Consequently, many youths resort to libel through highlighting the inadequacies of others on social media, rather than addressing the matter correctly and swiftly. Social media has practically taken over the country. What is there to do? Intervention is necessary. On the contrary, Mr. Speaker, the challenges that the youth of the Bahamas face today are overwhelmingly on the rise. However, there are viable solutions to combat such issues nationally. Firstly, to alleviate peer pressure challenges, programs on identity and individuality can be instituted where various teachings on morals, standards, and ethics can be taught on a more consistent basis. Secondly, to combat mental health declines among the youth, more outreach programs, guidance counselor visits, and prayer group sessions can be instituted nationally in schools. The youth of the nation should be made to feel as if they have a safe space to express themselves without fear of judgment. Next, to create a financial literate generation, more job opportunities through internships can be provided. Additionally, trade programs for Family Island youths can be mandatorily instituted to ensure that all youths nationally learn a trade. Significantly, to appease the challenges associated with abuse, social services checks should become more frequent and unannounced. Further, Parental controls such as locks and consistent monitoring of social media by parents and guardians should be encouraged in an effort to minimize and potentially eliminate cyberbullying. To this end, safe spaces can be created for students so that they are comfortable discussing traumas or other factors that impact their behavior in a negative manner. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, it is my hope that the solutions presented in today's speech are taken into consideration and gradually implemented. Thus, as stated by a former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Benjamin Disraeli, the youth of a nation are the trustees of posterity. Mangrove Key and South Andrews rest. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member, for your contribution. As many. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Bain and Grantstown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable members, my youth in Parliament, special guests, good day. Mr. Speaker, before I move forward with my contribution to this debate, I would like to recognize the wonderful people of Bains and Grantstown for allowing me to echo this sentiment in this honorable House. Education is the key to success, to formate a generation of doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs, and many other in their prospective paths. We commend the government for their continuous work to improve our educational sector, but there is so much work to be done. Education is the way of the future. Here in the Bahamas, we are at limit in the intelligence surrounding this matter. When we think about our youths who want to specialize in cardiac science, engineering, maybe a rare science, just to mention a few. There are limits here in our homeland universities. This discrepancy creates the option for our Bahamian students to be fished into universities abroad. I suggest we expand our studies and technology in our school system to allow our youths the option to pick a career path, whether academics, technical, or trade from the junior school levels. This will increase self-awareness with our youth, feeding them the confidence and ability to explore their options as they please. The National High School Diploma was a step in the right direction. Just imagine the Bahamas, that is known for the sun, beaches, and sand, also known for development educated people, qualified people, and trade-certified people, just to name a few. Here, joining forces, working in our fields, allowing us to meet the needs and standards of our country, decrease the hiring outside personals in the process. In doing this, unemployment, poverty, and crime will begin to steady decline in the numbers as we usher a new era for a more educated and diverse Bahamas. Including our youths in national decisions is a critical step for a better Bahamas. We have young, bright minds here in our Bahama land who can advocate recommendations to revise the old policies and generate a new one. We must not turn the other cheek. We must not turn the other cheek. Pass the torch. Pass the knowledge. Pass the belief. Do it whilst we can, while the time still give us. Don't turn the next generation down. As I conclude, I leave you with this quote by Nelson Mandela. He once said, "Education is the most powerful tool we can use to change the world. So it's my belief that if this resolution be passed today, our nation will live a bright, prosperous future. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. As many. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for North Eleuthera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I first would like to acknowledge an organization I pledge, the Cancer Society, for the butterflies that lost the fight, the warriors continuing to fight, and the survivors. I salute you. I, Kania Minnis, represent the hard-working people of North Eleuthera, of which I am a proud product of the soil, born in the land of freedom. In the words of Franklin D. Roosevelt, we cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future. Good morning, Mr. Speaker, fellow parliamentarians. I am blessed to be afforded the opportunity today to provide insight and help master the youth policy of the Bahamas. Our youth, we often hear as the future leaders of our nation, are integral in shaping the path ahead and ensuring a progressive and prosperous Bahamas. The policy focused on providing comprehensive education and training opportunities to equip the young minds with the necessary skills and knowledge for success. It is evident the countless challenges as it pertains to today's youth. Mr. Speaker, with all the good that can come with the advancement of technology, dysfunctional homes, misguidance, and peer pressure accounts for a great deal of negative social influences. Mr. Speaker, for a small community as North Eleuthera, these ills are observed from cyberbullying, character defamation by misinformation, and sexual and gender-biased violence to racial discrimination. It stems poor decision-making, insecurities, and the hindering of the ability to become productive citizens in society, adding fuel to the fire for a family island generating top revenue for our country. We do not adequately secure employment for our population. Mr. Speaker, now this is powerful. Unemployment and poverty, as we are aware, create a black plague of crime across the board, with burglary and theft, substance abuse, rape, and the cries of mothers echo when we experience senseless murders. The policy is committed to addressing these social issues, investing in youth unemployment programs and crime prevention. Through our collaboration with various sectors, such as business, civil society, and government, we strive to provide support, guidance, and rehabilitation to those in need. Additionally, our youth policy emphasizes the need for safe spaces where young people can express themselves, explore their passions, and engage in meaningful activities by fostering a sense of belonging and community. The policy aims to promote the overall well-being and mental health of our youth. Our youth policy promotes the active participation of young people in decision-making processes. We believe in their ability to shape policies and contribute valuable perspectives, creating youth professionals. This is evident throughout youth councils, forums, and platforms like Youth in Parliament and Local Government Junior Council. These youth engagements allow critical situations to be addressed and solutions to be offered on a national level and local level within school communities. It is a good initiative to develop social skills and showcase youth potential in politics, at once aligning and strengthening government-youth relationships. We do not find it just an exercise, but are serious that voices are heard, ideas are valued, and concerns are addressed adequately. Acts have been put in place to protect children against physical violence, and while this is a great initiative, we have to brainstorm the ills we overlook, like verbal abuse,
character deformation, and bullying that can generate psychological issues in youth. Implemented is the Orange Economy, allowing youth expressions through art, music, and culture. However, Mr. Speaker, I suggest expanding youth expressions by allowing youth to use spaces such as walls to tell their story, exposing negative experience that can create more avenues to help and a better sense of peace and security. National Youth Policy is a game changer. However, my vision is for the game to change, not only within the country, but to engage international exposure that can cultivate greater ideas and development. I see this is possible throughout implementing non-political youth ambassadors, thereby increasing the arena with civic education. We all may be one, but Mr. Speaker, Nassau is not solely the Bahamas. Come on now. Appoint Family Island youth ambassadors who are direct witnesses and can help bring about a resolution with their island's interests at heart. With the recognition of Youth Month, we have taken a step further, giving select accolades, but there are so many more youth in need of recognition. If only a small token and frequent acknowledgement, we can bring about a greater motivation and an increased youth force. To further curb social ills, we ought to understand that respect differences, practicing equality, and eradicate gender, race, or religious conflicts and crime. Mr. Speaker, we must modernize regularly the National Youth Policy so that youth may be educated, empowered, accredited, and utilized to successfully become the change makers that our country needs. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member Fanahi Luther, for your contribution. As many, the chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Elizabeth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I want to talk about a subject that is incredibly close to my heart, a topic that ignites passion and a concern for all of us: youth policy and the issues young people face. Let's embark on a journey through a world of youth, their dreams, and the importance of youth education and development. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, and the Bahamians at home, I am the proud representative of the amazing constituency of Elizabeth. Our country's youth, they are the beacons of tomorrow. They hold the keys to our collective future, and it's our responsibility to nurture and support them in their quest to unlock the doors of success. Yet, our young people face an array of challenges that would make even the most experienced among us quiver. Firstly, there's the issue of employment. In a world where competition is fierce and the job market is ever evolving, our youth must find their footing. A solid youth policy is essential to ensure that they have the tools they need to flourish. Then there's the challenge of education. The youth of today must navigate a complex maze of choices: traditional education, vocational training, and even digital learning. The importance of quality education cannot be overstated. It is not just about passing exams. It's about nurturing their curiosity, encouraging creativity, and equipping them with the skills to tackle the unknown. The pressure our young people face is unbearable. The weight of expectations, societal norms, and the ever-present world of social media, youth policy should put mental health at the forefront. But here's the thing, it's not all doom and gloom. Our young people are brimming with energy, innovation, and idealism. They are change makers and disruptors, and the ones that will lead us to a brighter future. Youth education and development are not just investments in their future, they are investments in ours. When we empower them with knowledge, skills, and opportunities, we are not just shaping their destinies, we are shaping the destiny of society in our country.
Let's champion youth policies that provide mentorship, internship opportunities, and funding for startups. Let's make sure education is accessible and relevant. Let's prioritize their mental well-being because being happy, mentally healthy youth are an unstoppable force of change. In conclusion, my fellow honorable members, Mr. Speaker, let's remember that youth policy is not just a government issue. It's a shared responsibility. We all have a role to play in empowering our youth, in guiding them towards a brighter, more promising future. Together, we can create a world where every young person's potential is unleashed, where dreams are fulfilled, and where our collective destiny is shaped by the brilliance of our youth. We all have to work together to pave the way for a brighter, more promising future for our younger generation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member, for your contribution. As many, the Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Exumas and the Ragged Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, distinguished guests, my fellow youth parliamentarians, and the lovely constituency of the Exuma and the Ragged Islands, which I represent. Why? Why are we fighting for a better future for our country if our youth cannot reap the full benefits? What will it all be for if they cannot even continue what we started? Our youths are the lifeline and the future which we are working so hard for. But how can we place expectations on them when we don't even give them the resources that they need to meet them? More specifically, how can they feel supported and protected by our laws if there isn't even a strong and effective youth policy? Exactly. For our nation to prosper, we must create an inclusive, opportunistic, and equality-driven policy for our youth, which means we need policies and initiatives tailored to our development. Now, I might sound selfish saying this, but it's not about you. It's about us. And it starts with our foundation, the educational system. Our educational system must adapt to meet our needs and the demands of today. That entails an educational system that teaches us modern-day survival skills, such as digital and financial literacy, media literacy, global awareness, emotional intelligence, and entrepreneurship. Also one that places an importance on physical and mental health. From primary, secondary, to tertiary level institutions, through wellness programs, and mandatory psych evaluations and therapies. Mr. Speaker, how many more suicides must we go through before we create more options and a youth policy with a plethora of opportunities for youths that choose a separate path from academia through specialized programs in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, as well as vocational training with mentorships, guidance, internship opportunities, and development in soft skills, which can allow our youths to be able to more so engage with our communities. Better yet, why not allow our youths to create programs for themselves as well as their communities as well? Programs that can provide them with useful skills and experiences that can enhance their caliber and their character, as well as guidance and funding in the form of youth empowerment grants. When we allow our youth to make independent-minded decisions, we would be surprised of the initiatives that they can produce or take part in. I'm talking about youth advocacy groups in which our youths can help in the fight against climate change, gender inequalities, and socioeconomic gaps, as well as be able to improve their mental health in their schools and their communities. These grants not only will allow them to be able to do all those wonderful things, but it also can help to teach them valuable skills, such as money management, resource management, logistics, and interpersonal skills, as well as entrepreneurial skills such as leadership, problem solving, and as well as how to manage their risks. All of which would benefit any one of us or any of our youths that plan to work or go to college. And one thing that college teaches us is that it is important for us to be able to measure, and I mean measure every single detail of our progress. Why? Because how can we know for sure if we are making progress if we don't even have any data to go by? Which is why our youth policy must be a data-driven policy. And our youth policy being a data-driven policy, it means that no one, and I mean no one, will fall through the crack, despite their nationality, their gender, their religion, or even their race. Each of our youths must be included in the decision-making process, or any initiative that directly or indirectly affects them. We must also ensure that our efforts and our outcomes are going to put their interests first, not ours, theirs first. And we must ensure that these policies and initiatives are done so collectively with our youths, because they too deserve a seat at the table. In the end, our youths are precious gems, and they should be treated as such. Which is why our policies, whether they are directly or indirectly affecting them, it must be inclusive of them and their thoughts and needs. Which is why we had to ensure that they are given every opportunity, every resource and guidance needed to harness their full potential. And I'm talking about opportunities that are tailored to our well-being, our future, and our development. Although there's always more ground to cover, Mr. Speaker, in time, anything is possible. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member, for your powerful contribution. Very imperative. As many, the chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Marco City.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Bahamas, wake up. We cannot afford to lose another youth to suicide, murder, or a lack of education. That's right. How long will it take for us to realize what is really happening in our country? How many of our youth will slip through the crack before that crack is repaired? Mr. Speaker, this morning I have the honorable privilege of representing the hard-working constituency of Marco City. We cannot ignore what is going on around us. We need to take immediate actions to improve the mental health initiatives, our educational approach, and social approach. These should be our top priority as a nation. According to an article found on Bahamas Local titled Teens Feel Pressure by Dr. Valerie Knowles, a growing number of teens are suffering in silence. InkSpot, another credible source, says that some teens are no longer reaching out for help. Mr. Speaker, I beg the question, why is this happening? The reason is because nobody really understands us. We are judged and misunderstood. To this day, as a youth, I am traumatized by the events that occurred on September 1st, 2019. As a Grand Bahamian, I witnessed our precious and blue aquamarine waters come on land and do dark things to my island. In 2020, more people than I can count were taken by the COVID-19 pandemic. These two catastrophic events left me in a quiet place of reflection. So can you imagine the other youth around our country? Despite all of this happening, the youth of this nation were expected to perform exceptionally well on the national examinations. Groves Learning Organization says, good mental health is the key to academic success. In 2016, only 71% of candidates achieved A to D scores in the Bahamas Junior Certificate, BJC, and the Bahamas General Certificate Secondary Education, BGCSE. In 2020, only 62% of candidates would have achieved A to D scores. Between these 2 years, we have had a major decline of 9% in scores. According to the Ministry of Education, scores have only worsened for the 2023 sitting. This year, we had a 36% decrease in scores compared to 2019. Mr. Speaker, I am calling for further training for teachers and youth practitioners so that our youth are able to be assisted with closing the learning gap caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and Hurricane Dorian. Guidance counselors and teachers cannot stand alone in the fight to bring about positive mental health and educational reforms in our institution, as it takes a village to raise a child. I would like to commend the efforts of the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture for launching the Youth Leadership Certification Program, the Fresh Start Program, and the Job Ready Program. These are the key components to positive adolescent development. Mr. Speaker, I would be remiss if I didn't mention BJC Passing Score, a nonprofit youth organization, which is a Students Helping Students program, assisting students all over the Bahamas in achieving a C or higher in the Bahamas Junior Certificate examination in 5 or more core subjects, including mathematics and English language. You see, Mr. Speaker, I am the founder of this organization. Before I take my seat, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the Marco City constituency for launching the Down to Business initiative, which provides youth and adults in the constituency with business development plans as well as free accounting classes. Mr. Speaker, the implementation of the National Youth Policy will make room for more programs like these. Marco City supports the National Youth Policy of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Member, for your contribution.
Good afternoon, honorable members. As many? The chair recognizes the honorable member for Southern Shores.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the youth in this country undoubtedly need a helping hand. We must not allow them to continue on with adequacy, but encourage them to strive for excellence. Mr. Deputy Speaker, colleagues, and to those participating here with us via electronic viewing, good morning. I stand before this honorable House, Mr. Deputy Speaker, to offer myself as a servant to the members of Southern Shores. Mr. Deputy Speaker, some of the youth of today seem content enough with what they have available to them. And even though contentment is nice enough, the greatest strides our youth will ever make will come from their drive to want more. To want more for the education of those with disabilities, to want more for the technical advancement for those in our country, to want more joy out of the careers for the youth in this generation, to want more not just for themselves, but for the people in this country. Dyslexia, autism, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, ADHD, developmental coordination disorder, developmental language disorder. These are just some of the mental disabilities that affect some of our youth's ability to learn and to process information. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the fundamental point of an inclusive education is that every learner has the potential to contribute positively to their society. Almost 5%, that's 1 in every 20 students, making it quite common. Children suffer from some type of learning disability, giving us ever more so a reason to make it possible for these individuals to have a chance of a quality education that caters to their specialized area of interest, need for routine, or ritualized behaviors, which may interfere with their learning. Mr. Deputy Speaker, through provision of a relevant spectrum of courses and education that are meaningful, appealing, and relevant to young people at all levels of learning in the Bahamas, and the promotion of diversity for multicultural youth and diverse learners, we can be sure to cater to these young persons' needs. Along with the practice of elevation of curriculum, inclusivity of language, enforcement of class values and behavioral standards, practice of cultural sensitivity, and the opportunity of freedom and flexibility in the classroom, we can offer a promising starting point of inclusive education in the Bahamas. Moreover, Mr. Deputy Speaker, during the COVID-19 pandemic, North Eleuthera residents have become strapped for cash, needing to buy goods and services because of their lack of banks on the mainland. Mr. Deputy Speaker, it's important that we provide access to banking opportunities to facilitate financial literacy for young people, particularly in the Family Islands. Having a bank account allows you to manage your own money and make your own financial decisions, which is an important step to becoming financially literate and independent. One thing we have learned from COVID is the importance of technology. Mr. Deputy Speaker, through the evaluation and enhancement of existing science banking programs, such as the Sand Dollar, with the implementation of new ones and the identification of concerns in order to make certain that investments to sciences and technology, the youth can be sure to take full advantage of the blessing called technology. In addition, we must reduce the stigma around unconventional jobs. When I was little, I wanted to be a ballerina, and when that job was shot down, I wanted to be an animator. Life is the longest thing we'll ever have the blessing of experiencing, and we as the youth have a long life ahead of us. So instead of sticking to the norm, like doctors or police officers or engineers, which we do need more of, by the way, so I'm not discouraging those particular jobs of service. Instead, I encourage our youth to aim for what they view as out of their reach. For if we aim for the moon, we'll still end up among the stars, said Oscar Wilde. Mr. Deputy Speaker, to lessen the stigma around trade school jobs, we must introduce the students to these trade school professionals. Career Day must not be centered around lawyers, doctors, and bankers, but we must branch out to include writers, chefs, photographers, fitness trainers, and all the rest. These These jobs not only pay well, but they provide you with less debt and have a strong demand for workers that will ultimately put you in the position to earn more money. Mr. Deputy Speaker, through the introduction of after-school programs and extracurricular activities to introduce the youth to these trade school professions, we can be sure to eradicate the stigma that these unconventional occupations are a dirty way to make a living, and thus rendering them undesirable to our youth. In summary, we are concerned about the future of our youth, and as a result of such, we must create avenues for our youth to grow, sustain, and develop characteristics and skills needed to thrive not only within our country, but also have opportunities to compete on a national and international scale. Addressing the unique needs of our youth from disabilities, technology, youth profession, and much more will no doubt seek to pave the way for all Bahamian youth. These policies will establish guidelines for cross-sectorial and integrated approach for fostering a shared understanding of the significance of youth development among stakeholders and individuals in the Bahamas. Let us take this moment to remember that the youth of today is the now and not just the future. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I yield.
Thank you, honorable member.
Thank you, honorable member, for your contribution. As many. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Golden Isles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, distinguished attendees, and our inspiring youth. I am Kristen Charlize Treasure Dossett, here representing the prestigious and highly regarded Golden Isles. Today, I am here before you to discuss an issue of critical importance, the Bahamas Youth Policy. The future belongs to young people with an education and the imagination to create. Barack Obama. Our young people are the driving force behind innovation, growth, and change. They are not just tomorrow's leader, but are also engaged members of society today. Recognizing the potential of our kids, addressing their unique needs and difficulties is critical to creating a lively, inclusive, and progressive society. The Bahamas has developed a comprehensive youth policy that strives to empower, assist, and uplift our youth in every manner imaginable. Youth policies are critical frameworks that support young people's growth, development, and active involvement, ensuring that they become valued assets of their communities and nations. However, youth policies in the Bahamas face unique challenges, and it is our responsibility to recognize these challenges and work together to provide solutions that enable our young people to thrive. One pressing challenge faced within the youth policy is the scarcity of jobs. Here in the Bahamas, we have high youth unemployment and underemployment rates. As a solution, we should develop targeted job training programs aligned with market demands. Encourage entrepreneurship through mentorship and financial assistance. We need to equip young individuals with tools they need to successfully enter the workforce, invest in initiatives that generate, whilst also encouraging entrepreneurial spirit. Moreover, substance abuse and mental health issues is also a challenge among the youths today. Youth policies play a vital role in addressing social issues and mental health issues and substance abuse. As a solution, we can provide more access to healthcare services by strengthening our healthcare infrastructures and encouraging support networks. The health and the well-being of our youth is a non-negotiable. We need to spread awareness and break the stigma surrounding mental health issues because it is a priority. And we need to ensure that every young person feels supported and understood. Provide accessible and affordable mental health services. Train teachers and community leaders to identify signs of mental health in youth and provide appropriate support. Doing these can address these challenges effectively. Lastly, investing in well-rounded and inclusive youth policies is an investment to the future. Empowering young individuals with education, skills, and opportunities can drive our society to a positive change. Government, non-governmental organizations, and communities, I urge you to collaborate to develop comprehensive and responsive youth policies. By investing in the youth, we are not just securing the future, but we are building a stronger and more prosperous Bahamas for generations to come. Let us stand beside one another to create an environment where every young person in the Bahamas can dream without limits, strive without obstacles, and achieve beyond boundaries. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Golden Isles, for your contribution. Honorable members, before we proceed, the chair would like to recognize the Honorable Zane Lightburn, Member of Parliament for Yamacraw and Minister of State in the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources. As many, the chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Yamacraw.
Give justice to the weak and the fatherless. Maintain the right of the afflicted and the destitute. Rescue the weak and the needy. Deliver them from the hand of the wicked. Psalm 82, verse 3 through 4. Mr. Speaker, as I rise representing the hardy constituents of Yamacraw, my name is Dominic Stubbs, and I extend a pleasant good morning to you all. To my fellow members in the House this morning, as well as to the members of the gallery, I extend my welcome to you. Mr. Speaker, I know you've heard it said 1,000 times, but these are troubling times that we live in today. With gang affiliation, the increasing pressure to indulge in drugs, decreasing mental health, it is now more than ever more difficult to be a young person in the Bahamas. I graduated in 2021 amidst arguably one of the most afflicting events in modern history, causing the entire world to virtually stop on its axis. This being the COVID-19 pandemic. Wearing your mask was now as important as wearing your t-shirt or your pants. Businesses could not operate in full capacity. This became the new normal. You would think something like that, during something like that, everyone would come together under the sun as one nation. But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, this optimistic view was not the case. The COVID-19 pandemic decreased the percentage of crimes like homicide by 23%, armed robbery by 41%, and housebreaking by 13%. Yet issues like rape increased by 16%, unlawful sexual intercourse increased by 48%, and domestic violence matters increased by 19%, with 3,283 incidents in 2021 compared to the 2,754 in 2020, not to mention suicide being on the rise. That was truly a time to be alive, Mr. Speaker. Despite these jarring statistics, we persevered. We got through the pandemic and are now getting back into the swing of things. But the issues of domestic abuse and rape and the psychological impacts that come consequently still remain. This is why I and the members and constituents of the honorable constituency of Yamacraw are in support of the resolution today. As sometimes as youth, we feel lost and feel helpless. Mr. Speaker, we have 12-year-olds living in cars, Mr. Speaker. In 2023, we have young persons living in cars. What are we to do? We are the future of this generation. We hold the key. We hold the power. We bear the hope of a nation on our shoulders. The hope that our little yet great nation will gather in unity under a sovereign God and exude excellence for the world to be in awe of, exemplifying the theme of this year's Youth Month. By signing on to the Child Protection Act, our government has acknowledged the importance of ensuring that every child in the Bahamas grows up in an environment that is safe, nurturing, and conducive to their physical and emotional development. This act provides us with a comprehensive framework of our protection. It lets us know that we, as the children of the sand, have rights not just plainly stated in our Constitution. Our safety being ensured step by step, reflecting the government's commitment to providing a secure and nurturing environment for us and our children and our children's children and our children's children's children. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, the Protection Against Violence Bill of 2023 underlines our government's dedication to addressing issues of violence and abuse within our society. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the results of 100 battles. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. It is important to realize, Mr. Speaker, that we are at war with these social ills that plague our nation like a swarm of locusts. No one should live in fear, and by embracing this bill, we are taking a stand against violence, harassment, and intimidation. No more shall a young woman or child feel bonded to remain in their abusive environment for the fear of nothing changing. This legislation allows for the afflicted victims to receive specialized care like sheltering, medical assistance, and even legal aid, sending a declaration of war to those who feel fit to oppress, that such behaviors will not be tolerated in our nation. It lets them know that we see you. It lets them know that we see you and we will take care of those you seem fit to harm. The decision to sign on to these protective legislations is not merely an administrative action. It is a statement of our values as a nation. It is a declaration that the Bahamas is a place where the rights and safety of our citizens are paramount. As I conclude, Mr. Speaker, we are creating a platform for a better Bahamas. A place where everyone can thrive, a place where human rights are respected and upheld. But with this being said, let us remember the responsibility does not solely rest on the government. Each and every one of us, as members of this great nation, has a role to play in making this vision a reality. We must be vigilant in protecting our children and supporting those who have faced violence. We must report any suspicions of child abuse or violence and work together to create a society where everyone feels safe and secure. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I mean, that the speech was so powerful, the lectern fell down. Thank you, Honorable Member. I'm sure Minister Lightburn is very proud. As many, the chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Central Grand Bahama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am proud to represent the prestigious constituency of Central Grand Bahama. Mr. Speaker, allow me to render my version of a stanza from the famous song of the late, great Whitney Houston. I believe the youth are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Our youth are the seeds of our nation. Only with proper care, guidance, and love can they grow to their full potential and develop into mighty, towering trees, sustaining the weight of our future. The youth is an important part of any nation's society, with them being the heralders of the future. So, of course, we should carefully nurture and support them so they can become model citizens of our country. It is important that every young person has an opportunity for them to grow and develop personally into a pillar of the future. That's why this youth policy is one of the most crucial policies to be implemented in this government. With it, we can support the youth and promote their growth into their own unique individual characters and personalities. Firstly, there's a strong need for youth employment programs. We should create job opportunities and apprenticeship programs for young people so that they can acquire real-world experience at an early age to carry into adulthood. Furthermore, public and private companies should be encouraged to provide internships, training, and entry-level job positions for the young. I believe that the benefits of this will extend beyond simply giving the young an opportunity to have an income. These experiences will help the youth to discover their desired professions and see what works and doesn't work for them. A student may very well discover their love for accounting or gardening just by being exposed to those paths incidentally. Even if a young person already knows what their dream is, they should be given the chance to experience that career on a real stage, being exposed to the inner workings of their future career paths and being trained earlier to build up a strong foundation for later. Now, let's take a step into the past. In primary school, career days were a significant influence on the police, nurses, and lawyers of today because they were exposed to those workers who eloquently communicated their passions to the sponge-like minds of our youth. Today, many high schoolers still aren't sure about their path in life or what to pursue after graduation. So why don't we bring back career days to our high schools, wherein we bring forth different workers from many different walks of life to inform our high schoolers about what is available and will align with their interests, and allow them to forge connections with business owners to foster opportunities to create futures. I believe that with an initiative like this, we can inspire a seedling of a budding, burning passion that will blossom a student into an ardent, effective leader in their career. Secondly, if our youth are to be the directors of our country, then surely they must know how to take care of it first. Often, while I'm walking home on my way from school, I will find bottles, soda cans, and plastic lodged into the tall grass after being left behind by someone carelessly. I've seen parents confidently litter in front of their children and not think twice about who they're influencing, and the group of friends collectively decide to throw all their trash behind the bushes. With our country being centered heavily around tourism, activities like this actively harm the captivating beauty of our islands that bring in tourists each year, with the Bahamas plastic movement previously having estimated losses of up to $8.5 million in tourism. From this, it is clear that there needs to be more emphasis on raising our youth as the stewards of their environment. We should be educating young people on the necessity of proper environmental care and conservation from a young age, why their individual contributions matter, and the dangers of environmental callousness. Utilizing recycling bins in school is a small but crucial step to making a difference and teaching students the value of resource conservation. Furthermore, we can promote more volunteering programs to the youth so that they can get closer to the root of environmental protection and their community and learn to love the nature and earth around them. Lastly, and what's perhaps the most crucial factor, is that the people of the present must set a precedent for their future. We ask the youth of today to be the leaders of tomorrow, but the youth of today look up to the leaders of today. Adults are the Adults are the teachers of the young, and if we want to know what is right and distill that onto others, we must embody those very principles ourselves as adults to the young. Parents, don't throw your trash out of the car or behind the bushes in front of your children. Just like how you would tell us to clean up the house in preparation for a guest, you must have that much pride in your country to keep it clean and pristine. Finally, I leave you all with a quote by Franklin D. Roosevelt. We cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future. We can't control or predict the state of the world 100, 200, 1,000 years from now, but we can equip our youth with the knowledge, skill set, and principles needed for them to pave the way for the people behind them and spearhead their nation into a bright and sunny tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member, for your contribution. As many, the chair recognizes the Honorable Member for North Abaco. Before we proceed, honorable members, we'd like to recognize the presence of Minister of State, the Honorable Jomo Kemba. Minister, I do apologize. Please proceed, North Abaco.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand before you here today on behalf of the simply great people of North Abaco, and I would like to extend a good morning to all. Be it resolved that the members assembled for the 24th session of the Bahamas Annual National Youth in Parliament will debate the challenges, concerns, and solutions for addressing the needs of the youth in our country, and more specifically, the continuous need for implementing a national youth policy in the Bahamas. You're just like your no good pa. You'll never be nothing. I know we've all heard these statements before, some of us more than others, but it just upsets me to see the way that the leaders and the adults of today speak down, how they speak down on the future. If we're supposed to be the future, why speak down on us? Why not encourage us to be better than our no good pa? As was published on June 19th of this year, the National Youth Policy provides a common and mutual understanding of the importance of youth development among stakeholders and individuals in the Bahamas. Young people across the Bahamas feel disenfranchised by the system made to protect them. They are worried about their lack of identity and involvement in decision-making. Decision-making is a very crucial part of any society. When decisions are being made, they don't only affect the people making the decisions, but the country at large. Therefore, the decisions made by the politicians never involves young people, but for some strange reason, we're affected the most. So I ask you here today, why must my future lie in the hands of out-of-touch political figure instead of mine? The youth are the future of the country and should be involved in determining the future of the country. So the government needs to implement a policy that has a well-rounded youth representative present with when decisions involving the youth are being made. There needs to be more opportunities, especially like this one here today, for the young people's voice to be heard. I take it a step further and say there should be more young people involved in the government overall. The average age of those in the House of Assembly is about 50, well, between 40 to 50, which is clearly well above what we as a country deem to be the age of our youth, which is between 13 and 35. But I believe this all ties together with education, because if we think about it, education is both the cause and resolution to the problem. You may ask yourself, how is education the problem? The answer isn't simple, but not very complex. Because there are many different problems within education. However, I'm only here to address the ones that apply directly to the youth. I believe there's a lack of opportunities for students living outside of the capital, which is not fair. Why is it that high achievers are unable to receive the same opportunities because of their location or unable to achieve their goals? That's not fair. As a nation, we seem to be very Nassau-centered. Also, there should be more qualified young people in high-ranking positions in education. This would allow for more understanding and sharing with students, especially high school students, because they have more in common with them. There seems to be a major problem with justice when it comes to the youth. The average young person doesn't have the money to afford adequate representation. Also, our justice system is extremely overworked. So everyone is unfortunately guilty until proven innocent. For most young people, when they're rehabilitated and released into society, it's very unlikely that they would be able to obtain a job or be properly reintegrated into society, which leads to a doomed society.
To avoid this, the government needs to create and push policies that guides young people after rehabilitation, because life is quite unforgiving. So my next question is, what about the youth? Franklin D. Roosevelt once stated, and I quote, "We cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future." I know that many already stated this, but it's such a powerful quote that I had to state it again.
Honorable member for North Abaco, your time was expired. The chair is going to extend you 30 seconds to conclude.
Okay, thank you. Therefore, we must implement a national youth policy for the Bahamas that allows us as young people to play an integral role in the development of our country. Young lives matter, and it begins with each and every one of us here today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Member, for your contribution. As many? The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for North Andros and the Berry Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And good morning, my fellow parliamentarians. Today, I represent the great constituency of North Andros and the Berry Islands. The future of a country is the youth of the country. Youth development is a vital undertaking. It is an investment in the young people of the Bahamas. A part of that investment was the creation of the National Youth Policy of the Bahamas. According to the policy, Mr. Speaker, 58.4% of the population consists of persons under the age of 35. It also outlines the services and programs associated with youth development. Hence, it is incumbent upon us to ensure the policy is amended and tabled for the benefit of the youth of the country. The youth of the country face many challenges, Mr. Speaker, with education being one of the primary ones. According to a ZNS News article, as of 2019, the graduation rate in the government school system was 60%. In the policy, under the heading, Situation Analysis of the State of Bahamian Youth, it is stated that the average passing grade of the BGCSE is a D, Mr. Speaker, which represents difficulties when young people attempt to attain a tertiary level of education and future employment. Throughout my academic life, Mr. Speaker, I have had to deal with dyslexia. And if it had not been for the resources of my parents, who got me the extra help and tutoring I needed, I would have not improved in my academics. In my opinion, Mr. Speaker, there should be a wider spread program where young people struggling in school are tested for learning disabilities. And if it is determined that they do have a learning disability, the program should have the appropriate resources and tutors made available to help these young people excel. Another unfortunate difficulty is the level of violence among young people. Young people have been found to be both perpetrators and victims of violence and crime in this country. According to the Royal Bahamas Police Force Nationwide Crime Analysis 2022 versus 2021, with regard to homicide, victims between the ages of 18 and 35 accounted for 64% of all homicides, Mr. Speaker. 64%. I, too, am familiar with the feeling of losing a family member to violence in this country. One day they're here, the next day they're gone, Mr. Speaker. We need conflict resolution and lifestyle programs for men, particularly young men, Mr. Speaker. We need to teach them how to handle their issues and to show them that the path of criminality is not the way. These issues are some of the most important things facing the youth in this country. This is why the National Youth Policy is so important. A matter of fact, it is beyond important. It is crucial, Mr. Speaker. The prison cannot deter crime by emphasizing the realities of prison life and showing youth in conflict with the law that this is not a place they want to be. The policy further encourages social development and social integration through formal and informal education. The policy will ensure that students are kept informed about how their respective learning institutions are being managed and it will provide a wide variety of relevant courses that will appeal to young persons at all educational levels. Further, it will also promote moral and ethical values in all aspects of life for young persons. This can be done by having a school program that teaches moral ethics in schools. The policy will encourage the cooperation between the public and private sector to establish calculated and beneficial opportunities for young professionals. And it strives to reduce the stigma around unconventional careers among young persons. It can do this by making it more known that the government has assistance for many different businesses and industries, such as the farming industry. In conclusion, the young people in the Bahamas are the country's future, and it is of the utmost importance that their development has a favorable outcome. The National Youth Policy of the Bahamas plays a large part in this undertaking. Ensuring a better Bahamas for the young people is the key to the success of this endeavor. With determination, focus, hard work, and by the grace of Almighty God, we will help the youth of this country and ensure the Commonwealth of the Bahamas has a great future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Member, for your contribution. As many? The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Cat Island, Runke, and San Salvador.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, fellow honorable members, good afternoon. It is indeed a privilege to stand before you all to represent the great people of Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador. In a country with a population of just over 400,000 people, unfortunately, it is commonplace for us to see our youth finding themselves on the wrong side of the law. Instead of being on a parade with one of the many youth organizations we would have seen on the Youth March this past Sunday, they are unfortunately being paraded before the courts to answer to criminal charges that include, but are not limited to, gun possession, armed robbery, and the most heinous of them all, murder. As stated by the Honorable Member for North Andros and the Berry Islands, according to the Police Commissioner's annual report for the year ending 2022, out of 128 murder victims, 82 were between the ages of 18 and 35. This figure accounts for 64% of all murder victims. Mr. Fernando also made mention in a January 30th, 2023 article on Eyewitness News, and he stated, and I quote, "Our research is telling us that our victims and suspects of violent crimes are young men between the ages of 18 and 35. So, in plain words, Mr. Speaker, our youth commit the most crime. Now that we are cognizant of this fact, what do we do to address the problem? This is where the National Youth Policy should come in. But there's an issue, Mr. Speaker. From the expiry of the policy in 2021, many of the goals have yet to be achieved, hence the urgency of today's forum. Firstly, Mr. Speaker, we must focus on addressing the educational issues that exist for our youth. I strongly believe in the statement made by Malcolm X. Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. In essence, without a certain level of education in this day and age, it's rather difficult to navigate through life. It is common knowledge that not everyone is designed to work in an office environment or in a job that requires a specialized academic degree or discipline. But those that find themselves in this predicament may reside on a family island and may either be unable to or unwilling to relocate to New Providence to further themselves. Hence, we could create a career high school section of the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute and establish those campuses in more, and I stress more, of our family islands. Obviously, adequate funding must be provided. This section will still offer courses in the fundamentals of mathematics and English, but vocational disciplines should be the main focus. With the implementation of this initiative, our young people no longer have to bear the stress of studying for a commerce exam if they wish to become a mason, and they no longer have to stress for studying for a history exam if they wish to become an electrician. Another solution is the inclusion of our youth in the decision-making process. Who better to ask about the youth than the youth themselves? Who better to relate to the youth than the youth themselves? We should encourage our youth to take a participatory role in society. The age to hold a political office, whether it be in the upper house or the lower house, could be lowered to aid in allowing younger voices to be heard in the halls of Parliament and have a substantial say in the legislative process. Additionally, as a family islander from Cat Island, I truly understand the value, significance, and impact of local government. It would be imperative for the government to allocate additional funding to push the local government junior council program so that youth can be exposed to community building and policy making from a young age. In order to have a future, we must build up, and we must build up our youth today. To close, Mr. Speaker, we need to empower our youth. It is understandable that many of our youth have gone astray. But what will we do to steer them on the right track? Certainly, bashing them is not a feasible option. We must provide some sort of program or initiative that will assist in guiding our youth on the path to success. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, we can expand our vocational education offerings to more family islands and allocate proper funding to these offerings. We can also include more youth in the decision-making process by lowering the age to serve in the upper and lower houses and allocate proper funding to our local government junior council program to teach our youth the art of community building and policy making. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Cat Island, Rumpke, and San Salvador yields.
Thank you, Honorable Member, for your contribution. As many? Mahmoud. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Centerville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Youth have immense power and capability and can play a vital role in the development of any country, provided they are guided in the right direction and given a chance to prove themselves. Shika Mishra. Today, I stand both humbled and honored to represent the resilient people of Centerville and substantiate the fact that now, more than ever, a national youth policy remains a deprived fundamental piece to the development of our country. Possessing a youth policy that addresses the critical accessibility issues that youth face in terms of general health care, mental health care, and education is long overdue. We, the youth, the future of our country, and most importantly, the future of the world, needs you, the wielders of influence and power, to use those tools to create infrastructures that lay down the groundwork that will shape us into the leaders of tomorrow. According to the World Bank Gender Data Portal, 26 out of every 1,000 girls ages 15 to 19 gave birth in the Bahamas in 2021. Now more than ever, it is evident that the lack of confidential reproductive resources in the country leaves our young women vulnerable to conceptive miseducation, fear of seeking help in time of need, and as covered in the statistic above, defenseless to teen pregnancy. Mr. Speaker, I contend that the implementation of systems like the Teen Clinics of Canada, whose mission is to educate and serve young people, is what our nation needs to protect our young women. These clinics will serve as support hubs that educate their clients on family planning, consent and sexual assault, sexually transmitted diseases, and provide them with free contraceptives and access to birth control, all without the anxiety of having a parent present. There is no doubt that it is because of resources like this that Canada's teen pregnancy rate stands 4.9, with every 1,000 girls, a number 75% less than ours. Here in the Bahamas, the all too common sight of persons affected by substance abuse disorders, neurological conditions, or mental health problems living in conditions of homelessness, poverty, and desperate want serves as clear evidence of the need to focus national attention on mental health issues and mental health services. Our own former Minister of Health, Dr. Dwayne Sands. I've spoken to neglected health services, but mental health in the Bahamas is borderline abandoned. The plight is obviously recognized, but still little is done towards the advancement of mental health services in the country. In recent years, it has become normal to receive a response of, "Me too," after confiding in a friend that you are struggling mentally. But what seems to have remained fixed throughout the years is the typical Bahamian parent's reaction to the same confession. It is met with an overall indifference and even anger at times. To protect young people suffering from mental disorders, we can, 1, increase their access to mental health services, establish safe spaces in schools and communities where young people can speak to trained professionals about issues that plague them. 2, educate. Incorporate mental health education into school curriculums, promote awareness, and shape a society that is ready to take action in aiding their loved ones who may be faced with such issues. And 3, remove the stigma. Encourage open discussions about mental health. In galvanizing forums where mental illness is discussed and acknowledged as being what it is, a life-altering disease, the nation will be shaping a generation ready to combat the unpredictability associated with mental health disorders. As published in a 2012 census, just over 26% of the population have a college degree. Mr. Speaker, it has become standard amongst teens, products of the government school system especially, to graduate high school with high honors and then be thrown into the world with no avenues having been created for them. Due to the lack of funds, lack of resources, and lack of parental support, once hopeful dreamers have no choice but to mark their dreams deferred and take a job to support themselves, never being able to revisit the zeal that walked hand in hand with their dream. To assist with making this calamity one of the past and support these underfunded youth, I suggest that the government enact programs that support students through the college application process. Resources like 1, mentorship programs, where college students and recent graduates can guide high school students through essay writing, scholarship applications, and overall portfolio building. 2, online forums. Forums designed to provide information on various colleges, match students to schools, and supply them with a compilation of scholarships to apply to. And 3, tutoring. Put into effect consistent after-school and weekend classes where trained teachers can groom students for standardized testing and national examinations right in their community centers. In closing, I repeat, we the youth, the future of our country, and most importantly, the future of the world, needs you, the wielders of influence and power, to use said tools to create infrastructures that lay down the groundwork that will shape us into the leaders of tomorrow. I am Kella Florima, a hopeful who dreams of a Bahamas with a youth policy that serves its young people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member, for your contribution. As many, the chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Bamboo Town.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The power of the youth is the commonwealth for the entire world. Their faces are of our past, present, and future. No segment in the society can match with the power, idealism, courage, and enthusiasm of the young people, being reason for us to continue investing in them. Shekinah Monko. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, good day. Today, I rise on behalf of the great constituents of Bamboo Town. We are here to discuss what we can do to improve the youth policy in our nation. The young people are indeed our future, and it is our responsibility to ensure that they have the opportunities and the support they need to thrive. We can do that by investing in education, implementing more vocational and technical training programs, fostering a sense of community, and of course, making sure we have a seat at the table. Investing in education is crucial. We must allocate resources to improve our educational infrastructure, ensuring that our schools have well-trained teachers and access to modern technology. This will equip our youth with the skills and knowledge needed to excel in the global economy. We must promote inclusive education with the understanding that not everyone has the same learning abilities. Some children pick up quicker than others, and some may need a little more time. Therefore, we encourage teachers to go the extra mile with a student to take their time. We must implement subjects that teaches us about how to survive after leaving high school, making sure students know how to create resumes, applying for jobs, and manage money well is only a few to name. We are all for encouraging persons to be their own boss, but without education, they are just useless as a knife without a blade. Furthermore, not every young person is destined for a traditional four-year college. That's why instilling more vocational and technical programs or institutes can be an alternative that can help our youth find fulfilling careers and contribute to our society. This includes partnership with local businesses to provide apprenticeships and on-the-job training. Mentorship programs are also essential. By connecting experienced individuals with young people, we can offer guidance, support, and inspiration. These mentorship relationships can help young Bahamians make informed decisions about their future, developing critical life skills, and build valuable networks. Moreover, we must address the issue of youth unemployment. Developing a strong, diverse economy and creating job opportunities for the youth is essential. This can be achieved through incentives for businesses to hire young talent and the promotion of entrepreneurship, encouraging young people to start their own business. Additionally, the mental health and well-being of our youth should be a top priority. We need to establish accessible and affordable mental health services, destigmatize seeking help, and create safe spaces for young people to discuss their concerns and challenges. The Bahamas can also benefit from more youth engagement in the decision-making process. By involving young people in policy making and governance of our nation, we give them a sense of ownership and responsibility, which can lead to more active and informed citizenship. With their innovative ideas and skills, youth are important drivers of innovation, game changers, and policy process at all levels and build the resilience of local communities. We must have a seat at the table. Lastly, fostering a sense of community and social cohesion is vital. We should support youth organizations, clubs, and sport programs that bring young people together, instill a sense of belonging, and promote positive values. In conclusion, the Bahamas has the potential to significantly improve its youth policy by investing in education, creating vocational opportunities, offering mentorship programs, addressing unemployment, prioritizing mental health, engaging youth in governance, and fostering a sense of community. By doing so, we empower our youth to shape the future of this beautiful nation, ensuring a brighter and more prosperous tomorrow for all Bahamians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Bamboo Town, for your contribution. As many, the chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Fox Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, fellow parliamentarians, and other distinguished guests, those watching via media, good afternoon. Today, I rise humbly before you representing the prestigious Fox Hill community, a location not just known for Fox Hill Day, but one filled with rich heritage, legacy, and close-knit communities with life-lasting friendships. A community where the young can still be seen outside, flourishing and thriving without the negative distractions of social media. Tevin Campbell says to us in his song, Tomorrow, I hope tomorrow will bring a better you, a better me. I know that we'll show this world we got more we could be. Mr. Speaker, I stand in support of the present resolution. Our young generation represents the future of our nation, and the policies we create today will shape the world that they inherit. I must not ignore the persistence and dedication of the constituents of Fox Hill, Mr. Speaker. The COVID-19 pandemic took the entire nation by storm. Unemployment, poverty, sexually transmitted diseases, and violence have been increasing since said pandemic. According to the Royal Bahamas Police Force, armed robberies increased by a staggering 34% in 2022, and murders increased by 85% compared to 2021. By this, Mr. Speaker, the common problems amongst the youth today must not go unnoticed. We must shelter the youth of our nation. The stigma of all men being criminals must be broken. Mr. Speaker, we must seek to develop our young people to in turn build our country to where it once was. First and foremost, education is the cornerstone of the youth development. We must ensure that every young person has access to quality education that equips them with the skills and knowledge needed in the ever-evolving world. Mr. Speaker, it is my belief that the government of the Bahamas, in collaboration with relevant stakeholders, shall prioritize and allocate resources towards implementing strategies and enhance the opportunities for the Bahamian youth. Ellen Nottingham once said, education is the one thing no one can take away from you. Therefore, as young people, we must strive to accept the education offered to us because it means to secure one's future. The Bahamas General Certificate of Secondary Education. According to the Bahamas General Certificate of Secondary Education, there was a slight decline in students sitting the exam in 2020 compared to those in 2019. 6,454 students taking the exams. By this, Mr. Speaker, it shows that the youth of today have lost the drive to learn. At this pivotal juncture, we must transform the youth of today. Organizations such as the Royal Bahamas Police Force Cadet Corps, Rangers, Youth Empowerment Program, Junior Achievers are all programs that find the need to ensure the crucial development of youth. However, Mr. Speaker, we must not allow those that wish not to succeed to hinder those that seek to make something great of themselves. I can assure you that the constituents of my great community are eager to learn. Mr. Speaker, as I sit and ponder, I think to myself, the doors that open for me, I wonder if someone else had the opportunity, would it be wasted? Mr. Speaker, how many suicides do we need? Mr. Speaker, studies show that mental health affects 60% of young persons in each country over the world, and the rate has significantly increased since the COVID-19 pandemic. As we seek to understand the thinking processes, we must first understand that mental health is not a bad thing. Mr. Speaker, once again, I must add that the brotherhood and sisterhood of the Royal Bahamas Police Force Cadet Corps is one that truly optimizes mental health. Those who yearn for a place of belonging can find it here. As Mr. Speaker, I can attest to this because I have found my second home in the Royal Bahamas Police Force Cadet Corps. Patrick Rahman said, "Lord, help the mailboat to hell." He tells of a country destined for failure, urging the audience to decide if the fate of the country is dependent on the metaphorical captain or the crew. Public awareness should be promoted that changes the perception of mental health and its entirety. We must break the stigma surrounding mental health issues and provide the necessary support and services. To ignore the mental health needs of our youth is to neglect their futures. Educational institutions, parents, and communities must collaborate to create a nurturing environment that fosters mental health well-being. Mental health is an act of courage when you speak up, not a sign of weakness. It is to disregard the very essence of compassion and empathy that defines a just and caring society. We must seek to recognize the importance of early intervention, support, and the removal of stigmas that prevents youth from seeking help, prioritizing and advocating for the mental health of our youth. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, civic engagement is crucial. Encouraging the young people to actively participate in the decision-making processes of our nation ensures that their voices are heard and their concerns are addressed. It is the pulse that keeps democracy alive, and that means by which we collectively shape our destiny. The very essence of civic engagement lies in the power of the people. It is in an era marked by complex challenges from climate change to economic inequality, civic engagement is not an option but a necessity. Barry Rosin, the chairman of the Rotary Board Foundation, said in the Zone 30 and 34 Summit, "We must always seek to ensure service above self." Without civic engagement, democracy becomes stagnant, vulnerable to the influence of few than the will of many. The need for civic engagement is not a political ideology. It's a shared responsibility that is about fostering a sense of ownership in collective affairs of our society. It is about making democracy not just a system of government, but a way of life. Mr. Speaker, technology has brought about unprecedented convenience, connectivity, and access to information. It has transformed the way we communicate, learn, and entertain ourselves. Mr. Speaker, technology impacts the way us as Bahamians live. It gives us a better chance at convenience. Therefore, we should ensure the security of our youth in this digital age. In conclusion, our youth policy should be a reflection of our commitment to the future. By investing in education, mental health, civic engagement, and technology, we can provide our young generation with tools they need to succeed. Again, Mr. Speaker, Patrick Rahman seeks an answer at the end of his poem, and who is at the wheel? We must begin to realize that if we do not take charge of our nation, it will never be the country we wish we would have lived in. Mr. Speaker, let us not sit around and wait for the world to change. Instead, we must change it according to our cultures and principles that benefit our Bahama land. Let us ever be mindful that excellence is the standard. Therefore, the standard would always be the standard. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. As many, the chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Pinewood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I remember so vividly sitting in my friend's apartment in the middle of London when I was struck with a single question that would ignite a profound realization. It was March of 2023, and I was about to address UNESCO's Regional Office for the Caribbean on Youth, Peace, and Security in the context of the Bahamas. At the end of my presentation, the only question asked by the Youth and Gender Program Specialist was, does the Bahamas have a national youth policy? I froze, and I began to sweat, because you see, the Bahamas had a national youth policy drafted in 2014, which expired in 2021 and had not been adopted. It is the year 2023, and our youth are still standing at a crossroads waiting for the beacon of a clear path towards a brighter future. Mr. Speaker, I stand before you today humbled and deeply honored to represent the constituents of Pinewood and to address this assembly on a matter of paramount importance. The resolution on the Bahamas' national youth policy. The future of our nation is inextricably linked to the well-being and prosperity of our youth. It is not just a political or administrative obligation, it is our moral and ethical responsibility to pave the way for our young people, ensuring that they can achieve employability, equal opportunity, and safety. In the following discourse, my contribution to this honorable House will focus on the pressing issue of youth unemployment, and more specifically, the subset of young professionals. Mr. Speaker, when we talk about paving a path to success for our young people, we must not dismiss the stark reality of youth unemployment and its implications on youth peace and security. In May 2023, the Caribbean Development Bank reported that youth unemployment in the Caribbean is among the highest in the world. The Tribune newspaper also reported that close to 1 of every 5 Bahamians aged between 15 to 24 years old who are seeking work are unable to find it. First, they said it was a problem of education. So young people took advantage of the bursary scholarships offered by the University of the Bahamas or sought out scholarships to foreign institutions so that they can become educated. Then they told us it was a problem of experience. So young people settled for underemployment, working diligently to accumulate skills and knowledge to prove to employers that they could operate in professional environments, albeit often in roles that didn't tap their full potential. Then came the discourse on human flight and the inescapable but heart-wrenching reality that young professionals were not motivated to return home. We figured that it was too hard to convince them to come home, and so we told them to mark the manner of their bearing and pledge to excel wherever they find themselves. But Mr. Speaker, what do you do when you have the education, the experience, and the willingness to return home, but nothing to return to? How do you function in a society that shouts the importance of operating a meritocracy, but chokes at the stench of nepotocracy? Mr. Speaker, what excuse do you give to young people who complained that the Department of Youth, or dare I say Division of Youth, with responsibility of 22% of the population, has been an addendum to another ministry and as a result overshadowed by sports and culture? This conundrum leaves us with a generation of educated, experienced, and willing young professionals with no avenue for meaningful contribution to national development and no concrete strategy that will enable long-term youth development. In June 2023, the Right Honorable Philip Davis noted that young people make a significant contribution to the life of our country, however, echoed that youth unemployment in the Caribbean remains regrettably high, and while our rates are the best in the region and are improving, much more must be done. Much more must be done. Because you see, it is not enough to recognize that there is a problem, but there should be a clear clarion call of action, as the statistics represent not just numbers, but the aspirations, dreams, and untapped potential of our young people. As a nation, we cannot afford to squander this invaluable human resource, but it is essential that we address these pressing issues immediately and comprehensively. The adoption and implementation of a national youth policy is the first step in addressing issues of marginalization and youth participation in the labor force. Not only does it allow for in-depth problem analysis, but targeted intervention and the creation of an environment that does not only allow young professionals to survive, but thrive. A national youth policy is instrumental in addressing key barriers and offering an effective response to youth economic issues. It recognizes the importance of aligning our education system with the needs of the job market. It recognizes that economic diversification is not just an economic imperative, but a strategy for reducing youth unemployment. It recognizes that investment in research and development, incentives for local entrepreneurship, partnerships with the private sector, and a well-structured apprenticeship program are essential to bridging the gap between education and employment, essentially combating youth delinquency that comes as a result of idleness. As I draw this discussion to a close, let us remember that our commitment to addressing these issues is not just a promise to our youth, but an investment in the boundless potential of our nation. Let us strive to create a national youth policy that is not just a document on paper, but a living testament to our dedication to empowering the next generation by ensuring that our youth are not bystanders in the grand theater of our nation's progress, but the leading actors crafting their own destinies. With a comprehensive national youth policy, we can pave the path to a brighter, more inclusive future where every young mind finds a place in the tapestry of our nation's destiny. So, let us rise to this challenge with fervor, for in the success of our youth, we find the true measure of our nation's greatness. Mr. Speaker, I yield.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Pinewood, for your contribution. As many, the chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Seabreeze.
Speaker, I rise before you today as a proud member of the Seabreeze constituency. The beautiful islands of the Bahamas. And it is truly an honor to address this honorable house, and to address you, Mr. Speaker, to share a glimpse of our private and close-knit neighborhood. Seabreeze, what an area. Very peaceful, truly a jewel of the Bahamas. It's not just a place on the map, it's a thriving community with culture and the warmth of its constituents. The working class is what I call it. A relentless spirit and unwavering determination not only to make ends meet, but to provide for their families and to build for a better future. But it's not just the fact that we are hardworking, Mr. Speaker, but it's the fact that it's our people and their resilience and the strong sense of togetherness that makes Seabreeze more than just a location in the east or somewhere you pass through when you go in way out there yonder. It is a home, and I can attest that. It's a home, it is a haven, and it is a heart-warming family. And I guess it's safe to say that the future truly lies within Seabreeze. Today, I stand before you not only as a representative of Seabreeze, but as a passionate advocate for the youth of our nation, who are indeed the future of the Bahamas. Our government recognizes the significance for our youth, and to that end, we have embraced the National Youth Policy as a guiding framework for nurturing and empowering the potential that lies within this vibrant demographic. The National Youth Policy of the Bahamas is not just a document, like my good colleague from St. Barnabas would have said earlier. It's not just a document. It is a commitment to our young people of this country. It is a commitment to creating an environment in which they can thrive and grow and contribute positively in our society. This policy is a roadmap, a plan that reflects our dedication to investing into education, health, and the well-being of our youth. Mr. Speaker, do you agree that education is the cornerstone of a prosperous future? See, I firmly believe that in providing for our young people with the best opportunities, we are dedicated to improving our educational system, making it more accessible and ensuring that our youth are equipped with the knowledge and skills they need to succeed in this rapidly changing world. This policy encourages lifelong learning, skill development, and access to quality and education for all. Health and well-being are equally important. Our young people deserve to grow up in an environment that support their physical and mental health. The National Youth Policy promotes initiatives that address the unique health needs of our youth, including mental health awareness and support, and as we understand the challenges that they face in this fast-paced world. Empowering our youth is not only about education and health, but is also about fostering a sense of belonging and participation. We encourage their active involvement in decision-making process, promoting leadership and giving them a voice in shaping their own future. We aim to provide platforms that express themselves to be heard and contribute to development of the nation. As I wrap up, Mr. Speaker, in today's fast-paced world, where technological advancements and societal pressures continue to evolve at an unpredicted rate, the well-being of our youth is under constant scrutiny. The National Youth Policy recognizes the unique challenges that our young people face and strives to address them proactively. This policy champions a comprehensive approach to our youth health, emphasizing mental health awareness and support as a cornerstone for initiatives. Furthermore, economic opportunities for our youth are crucial. The National Youth Policy outlines strategies to promote entrepreneurship, create jobs, and provide support for young people to start their businesses. We believe that when our youth succeed, our nation prospers. Mr. Speaker, the National Youth Policy of the Bahamas is not just a government. I'm wrapping up. Mr. Speaker, the National...
Honorable member, your time was expired, but I am going to allow you 15 seconds to conclude.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The National Youth Policy of the Bahamas is not just a government initiative. It's a national commitment to our youth. As we invest in their education, health, well-being, we are investing in the future of our beautiful nation. Seabreeze is just one of many communities where these policies will make a difference and where dreams and aspirations of our youth will be realized. Let us all work together to ensure that the promise of this policy becomes a reality and that the youth of the Bahamas continue to shine in their beacons for our nation's future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members, for all of your contributions. As many as are in favor will remain seated, and those opposed will stand. The resolution is agreed. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the business of this House be suspended to 2:30 p.m.
Is there a seconder? It is being moved and seconded that the business of the House be suspended to 2:30 p.m. As many as are in favor will remain seated, and those opposed will stand. The motion is carried, and the business of the House is hereby suspended until 2:30 p.m.